episode of Video Game Logic. Today's show is recorded on May the 21st, 2018. I'm your host, Gaming Psychologist, and with me, as always, the patient at the top of my caseload.
I feel bad about that, but caffeine rage. Do I need to sit and talk about this? Do I need to lay down on the couch again?
Yeah, you can lay down on the couch. On today's show, we will, of course, be discussing the games that we played. We're going to be discussing some Waifu Woes. There are 2 new Steam mobile apps. Boss Key Productions shuts down. Microsoft's new Xbox controller, which was designed for accessibility, has been revealed. We're going to be discussing the state of net neutrality, following some news from this past week. Call of Duty Black Ops 4 will have no Steam release or single-player campaign, favoring Battle Royale instead. The adventure game To the Moon is being adapted to an animated feature film. We'll have our weekly community corner and our Steam weekly discovery queue. Hello, Rach.
And timestamps will be in the show notes.
Oh yeah, I forgot. Since we didn't record last week, I forgot. Got out of my rhythm. I'm all messed up this week. So apologies to listeners out there. I hope you enjoyed a Franken episode. My internet went on the fritz last Tuesday and was out until partway through Wednesday. So it went down Tuesday afternoon sometime. It was later in the afternoon. And I called Charter, Spectrum. It was like, something's going on with my internet. I'm getting like connectivity issues. And, I've done all the basic troubleshooting steps, but they follow a script. So I had to redo all the basic troubleshooting steps.
The pages being turned in the background.
Yeah. So I, turn it off and back on again. Did you try plugging directly into it? Yada, yada, blah, blah, blah. So, wasn't working. They were like, well, we don't know what the problem is, but we don't have any problems on our end, so it must be something with you. We'll schedule you a technician for tomorrow. We've got one available. And I was like, fine. I'll schedule a technician. And then, in the middle of the night, they call me and wake me up like it's an automated call. We are just calling to inform you that there is a line down in your area that has been affecting service of some customers. We are working as hard as possible or whatever to get it fixed, to restore your services. And that would be annoying, but Wednesday was the first day that I started my new job at a new counseling clinic. So I'm back to working for someone else.
Yeah, and if I got woke up like that, I wouldn't be going back to sleep.
I was pissed, but I did go back to sleep, thankfully.
See, I just can't go to sleep mad, which may be part of the reason why I'm an insomniac.
So yeah, I'm all topsy-turvy this week, adjusting to a new schedule. I mean, it's been fine. I like my new clinic. They made me an offer I couldn't refuse. So horse's head and all, but it was a good offer. The clinic's a little bit farther away than I'd like, but the pay's really good. Get starting out a bunch of vacation time and health insurance, which is a big deal in the United States for those of you who live not in the United States.
Don't worry, Trump's working on making healthcare shitty for everyone, price-wise.
Yay! But
that was his big plan, to make healthcare seem cheaper in the US. Haven't you seen that? Oh
yeah. But anyway, so good benefits, good pay, good vacation time. Worst part of it is the drive, but the drive's not that bad. I was comparing commutes with some of our listeners on Star Wars RPG night, and I was like, okay, my commute's not that bad. I won't complain. So, but anyways, that started last week, so I was... yes. But,
I have to go halfway across the galaxy every day. You complain about. Sorry.
You're fine. But so I was all topsy-turvy last week, which is going to play into how many games I've played this week, which is a very small amount. I can, or we can break up yours in the middle. I only played one game this week that wasn't Battletech, and Battletech is the Game Club game, so can't talk about it.
Yeah, I think somebody has a problem. I mean, I've played a lot of Battletech, and you're over twice my hours, going on 3 times.
Let's go check on Steam. Have I crossed the 200-hour threshold or not? Battletech. 187 hours on record.
You do realize there are other games, right?
not for me right now. Part of the reason this last week the only game I played was BattleTech was just I'm adjusting to a new sleep schedule. Every job I've ever had has either been an evening afternoon type job, which works well with my natural sleep schedule because I would sleep during the day and then go to work in the evening, or I've been 100% in charge of my own schedule. So I would just always do stuff later in the day. But on this one, I have to get up like an adult really freaking early in the morning. I get to come home as soon as I'm done. Like, technically, it's like a 9 to 5 office job, but I'm in charge of my own schedule, and so I could leave early every day if I wanted to. But as long as it, works in my schedule. But
yeah, I'm like that as well. My mother would have been a lot more worried about me if I didn't like Italian food, all the garlic.
Yeah. But yeah. So I'm having to get up early, and I've been tired and not really had the brain power to try new things. So this last week, I was like, yeah, I'll just play BattleTech. And I genuinely had every intention of playing other games this week. I got a couple on Keymailer that looked really interesting, and you played one of them.
Yeah. I saw that you had her, and it's like, oh, I'm probably going to be spoiling this.
It's okay. But I just was like, I don't have the brain power to start something new this week. And it's a good thing that RPG night was canceled because one of the players in my group was gone last week. Because Wednesday night I got home and I just crashed. But anyways, enough about me and more about you.
Well,
that would be the gentlemanly thing to do.
The game that we that we would have had in common. I'm getting ahead of myself. Let's talk. Let's go in order. How about that? Let's start at the beginning.
Sure. Also, do you want me to? We didn't exactly say. Do you want me to jump in halfway through and do mine?
Jump in after our game.
Okay.
Because the first two aren't terribly long because they're failed Sunday samplers. Because week before or last week, I should say, I didn't do the Sunday sampler just because it was an off week for me. I was still readjusting after being me being a day walker for over 2 weeks, which is horrendous for my recording time. So, I was just not doing all that well. So I did try a couple games and they didn't really click. One for one reason, this one for a different one. So let's start off with one of the first ones that's on my list, Ridden. This is I want to call it a walking simulator, but it's too puzzle centric. It's more like a modern interpretation of the old Myst games, sorta. Where it's a very, very, very slow burn story. I played it for a couple hours, and I have to admit that didn't really get a feel for what was going on. And this is a fairly decently long first-person adventure game. So it's going to be something that, if you're playing it, would open up after probably about 4 or 5 hours. This has some performance issues, and it's not my usual performance issues where it's hitting my CPU too hard. It's actually hitting my GPU too hard. I have an RX 480, and this was pegging it and getting barely 60 FPS with some micro stutters. And this
pretty intense. Yeah, I mean, the 480 is not like the most powerful card on the market, but it's in that top tier performance bracket. Yeah. So.
And this game, while some of the screenshots are very pretty, does not warrant it running that heavily. I mean, you could see some of the screenshots where, there's a lot of jaggies where there's not running enough anti-aliasing and some rather muddy textures. It's a pretty game. It's a very atmospheric game, but it's not a game that should be running this heavily. Which is part of the reason why I didn't do it, was that I wasn't sure if I'd be able to play it all that well. And it's a Myst-style adventure game where it's a lot of atmospheric puzzles, a lot of going through, and instead of sitting down and figuring out a puzzle logically, you have to go around and look for the clues and fill them in the puzzle. Maybe it's just where I didn't grow up with Myst, but that was starting to get irritating after a while, particularly whenever they would hide things, on the bottom shelf of a bookcase that is behind one of the puzzles. You had to move a series of tumblers with different symbols, and a couple of the symbols were on these bookcases, and one was actually behind some books, and you had to stand in a very particular place and look down. And it was at that point I realized this game is not for me. Because I found it irritating, especially with all the little marker stutters and all the little graphical hitching. I just felt like it was going to be a unpleasant experience to play it a lot longer. That, and also some of the puzzles are fucking irritating. There was one puzzle that kept repeating every time you would hit a gate. It would have this sliding ring puzzle where you have to match up the picture on a series of rings that rotate around a central point, and the image isn't symmetrical, but it's very close to it. So if you're not paying extremely close attention, it's very easy to have the rings in the wrong orientation, and the rings have a very small margin of error, which I just found unspeakably frustrating after hitting that puzzle for the third fucking time.
Yeah, I hate finicky puzzles.
And it's also one of those that it feels like the game should have a in-game note system. There is a journal system, but it doesn't provide you with enough clues that you find. So you're either sitting there and writing down on paper, which I realize is very misstyle, but yeah, that's not the modern style. The modern style usually has some sort of way to take notes in game, right? For this type of game.
I don't know, actually.
The couple I've run into that's more modern interpretation, they either have a lot better journal system. This one just didn't. It was very, very basic. Or they would have like a text editor where you could type in. And I just found it unspeakably frustrating. But then again, I did not grow up with Myst, so if you absolutely love Myst, this may be a game for you. It wasn't for me. And that's really kind of the reason why I didn't do it, is that I felt like I'd be unfair to the game. If that makes any sense.
Yeah, it does.
And I wouldn't be able to show it in a decent enough light, even though I didn't really care for it. And there's a couple of puzzles that, it's a little finicky. There's a couple that really don't make a lot of sense unless you are given the actual, clues from another player, or there is a little bit of a clue system in the game, but sometimes it's a little finicky. You have to be in an area with the puzzle in order for the clues to go off. So if you wander off too far, you could also hit that, hit a dead area where the clues won't show up. And since this is a more atmospheric puzzle or puzzler, you're going around trying to find the clues, and you stumbled too far away. It's not going to give you hints anymore, so you have to go back and figure out where that invisible boundary is. But if you're a fan of the style game, well, here you go. Like Ridden, it probably wouldn't be a bad pickup. It's $20 though, so a little outside of the impulse buy area.
Yeah. I wasn't a big fan of Myst either. Although Myst came out in the first Myst came out in the early 90s. I was a little kid. I didn't play Myst until...
Get off my fucking lawn.
Until later. And at that point, it was very dated game design.
Yeah, and that's what...
I played Myst in the mid-2000s.
Yeah, I think that's what's probably getting to me here is that the style of puzzler, or the style of adventure puzzler, is very dated by now. Where, it's that aha, and not in the good sort of Portal, aha, I figured it out. It's more of, you hit it there.
Yeah.
Granted, some of the puzzles, because they're atmospheric, and I use the term atmospheric puzzle as in, you have to go around and look at the environment and look for a particular symbol or figure out a certain little sub-puzzle to be able to figure out the big puzzle, that sort of thing. Some of them are actually just brute forceable. Like, one of the very first ones is you have to get a list of numbers out of a safe for another puzzle. Well, the way that you're supposed to do it is you pick up all the objects in the room, and eventually you find hidden under one of the objects the combination to the safe by just, so many turns left, so many turns right, so many turns left. But the puzzle also will reset if you hit a incorrect answer. So I was able to brute force it by just going left, left, left. Oh, okay, it reset. So 2 lefts, then right, 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 right. Oh, it reset. Okay, 2 left, 3 right, then go back to the left, and it's solved. And there's some puzzles that are like that, where you can just brute force them. And there's also this weird system where whenever you pick up something, you're able to rotate it in your face. Very like how they do with Skyrim. But
yeah,
in the few hours I spent with this, it never really made use of it outside of just showing how fucking low poly some of the bottles are. Pick up a cup and, you can see the polygon points on it where it's not quite round enough. Or some of the texture work that's a little too muddy to be shown up close like that.
Yeah.
So maybe that will come into play later, but as far as I went, it just wasn't important and felt kind of tacked on, or maybe it was a thing for the engine that they just never removed, or maybe it'll be useful later on for another puzzle, but for as far as I played, it wasn't. I'll try to just, and I got a little bit of a slur there, outside of just, showing that, the game should not be running this poorly. They need an optimization pass, big time. Or maybe it just didn't like my system, which is also a possibility, because, PC does some weird shit at times.
Indeed.
Speaking of weird shit, let's go to Deep Space. The space platform, Deep Space.
Okay.
This is a roguelike procedurally generated platformer, and this is the side of roguelike that I actively dislike, where it's those gotcha moments, once again, where there's no way to really predict how to deal with a particular enemy until it's killed you several times, and you have to restart, get to that point again, and then kill it to progress on. And that's what this was doing here. Was every time a new enemy showed up, it would either do a lot of damage to me or just kill me outright because I wasn't prepared for it. And the way the game is handled, with a lot of traps, a lot of enemies just charging at you, and the style of weapon that you have, it's a sort of a run and gun, old school metal slug style shooter. Or I guess nowadays we would call it Cuphead style, run and gun, with actually healthier, well, more health though. But because of the enemies be able to dodge and just drop from the ceiling, and spikes shooting up from the floor, instant kill barriers, especially instant kill barriers where enemies will jump over your shot to kill them and dunk you into the instant kill barrier, it irritated me. Like I said, it's not the good side of roguelite, though. There's a difference between hard and hard but fair. And this felt just hard.
Right. Okay, that makes sense.
And, well, if you're a fan of just, brutally unfair platformers, almost, I want to be the guy-esque where it will fuck you over and you have to just learn through pattern recognition, then this is the one for you. But I quickly dropped this. For good reason, obviously. So, any questions?
Nope. Doesn't look like I would like it at all.
So let's move on to something I think you would like. Steamworld Dig 2. I actually completed my series on this, so I could give some more thoughts on the game.
All right.
I think my biggest beef with this game, maybe it's just the fact that I didn't sit and talk to everyone, because there are sections of the game where you go back to town and everyone has a speech bubble. as in everyone in the town,
Nice.
where it felt like the ending just really came out of nowhere. And it at first I thought I was coming up to the ending, then it threw, okay, you gotta go do this now. Well, all right. And did that, and then all of a sudden, oh, okay, here's the ending instead. It just felt unspeakably sudden, and I don't want to spoil what exactly happens, because I think it'd be more interesting to have it happen to you. But I'm going to use the term Halo 2 syndrome, where, it felt like there was supposed to be more, but it was just dropped.
Sequel bait.
Technically not, because of the way the series is, because this is actually the middle game in 3 games, even though it's the 3rd released. Because this technically happens before Steamworld Heist, which has been out for a couple years now. So this is more prequel bait, sort of, you know?
So it's like Borderlands, the pre-sequel.
Sort of.
Okay.
Where this was designed to sort of fill in the gap between the original game and the game that kind of deviated from the genre. Which don't get me wrong, this is not a bad game. I actually really enjoyed this. And part of the reason is, well, the same reason why I like Torchlight 2 over the original Torchlight is that they diversified. They added a lot more. You're not going through the same environment, just digging deeper, deeper, and deeper. Like Torchlight, you would go down through this one dungeon. In this, you have side areas. You go off and do other things. It's a true Metroidvania where you're going back to previous areas. Even in the story itself, going to previous areas and unlocking secrets there by just having new powers or new abilities. So I really like that in this. It's just, it felt like it came to a sudden stop.
Okay.
Speaking of sudden stops.
Makes sense. I mean, I've liked the look of the Steamworld games. They look like they'd be something I have potential to enjoy.
I mean, you do like your digging. I'm not the biggest
fan of... Do what?
You do like your digging and mining. And that's what a lot of this game is. It's sort of a build-your-own Metroidvania, almost, where as you're digging down, you're creating the level to go back through. You have to return. And this one is a lot more liberal with its teleporters, and it doesn't have as much in the way of consumables as the first game, because in the first game, you can actually screw yourself over if you're too liberal with using the consumables, because there's a limited amount of resources that you could dig up. So you wouldn't be able to get all the power-ups and everything. In this, it's not quite like that. You are able to get it to the point where you're able to generate money just by killing enemies. And also, it's a lot easier to get to the point where certain mechanics don't matter, particularly the light mechanic. As you dig down, you light an oil lamp, and it burns as a timer. And once it goes out, well, you can still progress, but you are unable to see very far. And this, after you get a certain power-up, it stops at the 50% mark. So it becomes essentially infinite, because it's around the 50-ish% mark where it starts dramatically shrinking your vision radius. And that may be a detriment to some people, where it has a lot of mechanics in it to just make you go back and sell occasionally, but you're able to disable them or get around them through various power-ups. But I didn't have a problem with that. And this is also a lot more diverse in its power-ups, and also its just general mechanics. So that definitely is a plus in my book. It's just, it felt like they just cut things off right at the end. Maybe it's just, I didn't talk to the right people, so I didn't get the clues of what was actually going on, because I was recording this for a Let's Play, and frankly, sitting around for text bits is rather boring, or hearing me just chatter away about them. And there was a lot of sections where I was just skipping a lot of people having a lot of stuff to say, and not all of it being very important. Just, oh, well, you're this girl bot from the first game. How's that old town doing? That sort of thing, which is not terrible, but at the same time, it kind of obfuscates the actual important bits of dialogue,
Yeah. That's got to be someone's fetish. Just sitting around listening to someone read dialogue. It has to be.
ASMR?
Yeah. Fair play. It's a lot of people's fetish.
Granted, I'd be talking like this. Very breathy. Right?
Indeed.
Jared, stop jerking off for a minute.
Oh, yeah. So good. Anyways.
But
okay.
I do suggest checking this out, particularly if you're a fan of the first one, but thought it could do more. This is definitely worth checking out then. Or you just want to have a Metroidvania, because frankly, Metroidvania is a very niche title, or niche genre still. There are those out there, but there's a lot of bad Metroidvanias out there.
Yeah. Alrighty.
And this does lead into Steamworld Heist, which is a completely different genre, but it's sort of it's 2D platformer XCOM, which I will be playing.
Awesome. Well, that was 3, so that means it's my turn to do my 1. And the only game I played this week that I can talk about is Mechwarrior Online. This was a previous Game Club game. And we've talked about it, I think, a couple of times outside of that as well.
Yeah, particularly with the game, with this month's Game Club.
But it's been over a year since I played it. And also in that time, not only have things changed in the game, but I have a HOTAS, whereas before I just had a joystick.
I think they have an ointment for that.
So I was doing part joystick, part keyboard. And I've never ever played a mech game with a HOTAS. So I wanted to see what that was like. And it feels really good. Really good. It took me a little bit to get everything adjusted properly. Because you have to get the dead zone just right on the joystick for controlling the torso. Because if you don't, it's really twitchy and you can't hit anything. But after I fiddled with it for a little bit, I got it all sorted out.
You were saying there with a mech game, fiddling with your joystick?
I was sitting there with a mech game, fiddling my joystick, and I was smacking the paddles. Can you hear that? Oh yeah. And then I was adjusting the throttle, but that took some figuring out too, because they don't have. So what I like to do is I like to use the throttle as a single direction, and then have a toggle to switch between forward and reverse. And they don't have that in Mechwarrior Online. If you're using a throttle, you can do it with the keyboard, but you can't do it with the throttle because there's the button there to do it, but it wasn't working with the throttle. So then I tried it with the keyboard and it worked with the keyboard, and you could just use tab to go between forward and reverse. I don't know why that is. That's really frustrating, and it took me a little bit of time to work out my throttle settings properly with the throttle part of my HOTAS. But once I got it worked out and got used to the controls again, just doing some of like the training mode or the testing mode, where you can play around with your builds and not have to fight anybody. I played for several hours and thoroughly enjoyed myself. So they've added the Solaris 7 game mode, which in the Battletech lore, Solaris 7 is the biggest, most popular gladiatorial arena for mech combat. So they've added several new arena maps from the Solaris planet. They've added a lot of new mechs since the last time I played. Specifically, several of the Solaris specific mechs. Those are fun. Although they don't have the best ones, which feature melee weapons, because there's no melee system in Mechwarrior Online. If you like ram someone really fast, you can do some damage and knock them over, but you can't actually do melee combat, which sucks, because some of the best mechs from the Solaris circuit have got like a mech flail. That's incredible. There's some swords and shields.
Yeah, it kind of disappoints me that they don't have the melee weapons even in BattleTech.
They've talked about adding those. In one of their little blurbs, they wanted to add melee weapons, but they couldn't get the system working right for release. So they only have, which I don't understand. Just make it a weapon that only affects melee damage, but I'm not a game designer. Maybe it was like buggy or something.
Technical
but anyways,
things.
that's dipping into next week's Game Club discussion. But anyways, Mechwarrior Online is fun. So they're also making Mechwarrior 5. The same people are taking basically the Mechwarrior Online system, all of it, and then just adding or dumping that into a new single-player Mech Warrior combat game. And if they do a good job of it, it'll be a lot of fun. They've got all of the systems down pat, jump jets, armor shielding, using, lighter mechs to get behind the bigger ones and take them down from behind.
Oh, wow.
They've got a lot of really thorough systems they've got a lot of thorough systems that don't exist in the older Mechwarrior games, like being able to set up chain fire or setting up specific rules for your weapons so you can't accidentally overheat and blow yourself up. You can set rules now for... This didn't exist before, but you can set heat rules now. And if your heat goes above a certain threshold, certain weapons won't fire. Like, for example, I don't know why, but I have a blackjack now in my mech bay that I definitely had not purchased before. And it's a variant with 2 large lasers and 2 streak short-range missile launchers on it, which I wish that variant was in BattleTech, because it's a lot of fun to have a blackjack with missiles, because it's a really jump-heavy mech, or a jump-focused mech. You hop around and shoot missiles at people. But I discovered that it doesn't have a lot of heat capacity by default, and I was constantly overheating. And then I was like, oh, what's this? Heat rules. And you can set a weapon group so it won't fire when you get above a certain heat threshold. So at 90%, I set it where that the lasers wouldn't fire, the 2 large lasers.
I bet that helped.
It did. So that's nice. But otherwise, not a lot's really changed other than just adding more stuff. There were a lot more mechs, a lot more mech variants of existing mechs. There's some new weapon stuff, some new clan-related stuff, and then they added the Solaris. But all of that's just sort of background story bits and new stuff for you to spend money on in the store. Its business model doesn't appear to have gotten any better.
Ugh.
And
that was my big problem with it before.
That was everyone's problem with it, but it was the only modern Mechwarrior game in existence for a long time.
Well, it
so
still
it was
is for a while.
Yeah, it still is. But there is, at least with BattleTech, another game in the universe that people can play that isn't free-to-play bullshit. And I'm really excited, too, for the future of BattleTech. This is maybe getting slightly towards Game Club discussion, but I found out that they have a partnership, Harebrained Schemes, the people who developed BattleTech, with... Who is it that does Mechwarrior Online? I can't remember their name all of a sudden. But regardless, whoever they are, they have an agreement with them to use like their some of the
assets
and tech that they've developed, like that whole system for how your mech looks when you customize it in BattleTech.
Yeah,
they were able to get that as part of this partnership from the people who made Mechwarrior Online, and then mech assets. They got quite a few from them. They have to do some adjusting because there's a lot of differences in the fine details of the modeling, but they get the meshes for the mechs.
Yeah, I think we just figured out why BattleTech has the performance issues. It may be just running too much under the hood from Mechwarrior Online.
Maybe. Although it doesn't make sense to me why that would be GPU issues. It seems more CPU, but hell, I don't know. I don't design games, so...
Also, it depends on how they handle it behind the scenes, but yeah.
Yeah, so they've borrowed or are able to use a lot of stuff that's already been developed by the Mechwarrior Online people. I think that was negotiated actually by the BattleTech licensing deal. But that was pretty cool. So I was also doing some research on like what potential mechs could show up in future expansions or DLCs or whatever. Because there are a lot of mechs that exist in the time period for BattleTech that aren't actually in the game.
I think someone's obsessed.
I am. I've always been fascinated with that universe. I've combed through the entire wiki more than once, and that was before BattleTech. Battle, just in case, or I think everybody knows. But when I say BattleTech, I mean the PC, the PC. But I've been a huge fan of that universe. Been a huge fan of that universe for 15 years or so. So, I mean, it's one of those things. I love storytelling. I love lore. There's a massive amount of lore for the BattleTech universe. It's great. Big stompy mechs. Love it. I don't know if I'll play Mechwarrior Online regularly. I mean, it's not a bad game, but the
grind is just such a turn off.
The grind is annoying, and the min-maxing of other players is frustrating. It's like I can't do anything fun because everyone's using 2 or 3 builds. And it's like, well, if I make a build that's just like fun or interesting or fits in well with the universe, you'll get yelled at and murdered quickly. So, about the only thing that's enjoyable is to just go straight LRM boat the entire time, which I can do fine. I have several mechs set up for that, but it's boring after a while.
Hopefully, the single player in Mechwarrior 5, I believe it is, will be good enough that it won't hit some of the issues I've been having with that.
I hope so. Although, I have some concerns based on some things that I've seen.
Oh, really?
Yeah, they're doing a lot of the procedural generation game. And there's been no reveals on the official story.
I mean, done well, it could work. But the thing is that procedural generation is all about the back end and how much effort they put into the engine. And, it's a very easy thing to just be lazy. That's why whenever I have a game idea that requires procedural generation, I always preface it with done well.
Yeah. For Mechwarrior 5, unless they just recently released something I've missed, there hasn't been an update in 5 or 6 months about the game, like a public update. But the stuff that they've shown has all been procedural, and all of those missions have played out roughly the same, just swapping out essentially the environment and what mech you're using.
I know the one video I saw that was a longer form video of Mechwarrior 5. It was the developer playing, and they played like shit. They kept swapping off targets, and they weren't showing the game off very well.
Yeah.
And I realize that seems like a nitpick, but it doesn't do the game justice whenever you're kind of half-assing it. But they may be also trying to not show off that, okay, well, this system isn't quite in place yet, or it looks funny, maybe the animations aren't quite working yet, and they can't really show up, but they need to show some of the gameplay. So I do realize that there's likely a reason for it, but, it's irritating.
Yeah. Just doing a quick Google search. I don't see anything new about
Oh, don't worry,
Mechwarrior 5
is coming up.
True. Oh, here we go. Single player.
It would shock me that we don't see anything about it on the PC gaming show.
Speaking of E3, we need to talk about that.
Yeah.
Maybe tomorrow night, since we're recording on Monday this week. We can chat about that in a business meeting. Talk some business.
Have a powwow.
Yeah. But yeah, that's what I've done with Mechwarrior all this week. Back to you.
Okay, so Jim actually sent me something this past week. I haven't spent as much time with it as I would like, mostly because I got distracted with its European counterpart, but I got a hold of American Truck Simulator. And it's not quite like I was expecting it. I was expecting pretty much Euro Truck, only with the American map, but I have to say that at least what I've played so far, I'm still in California, essentially just establishing my trucking enterprise, or Dynasty or Monopoly, because it seems like I'm the only truck on the road or a trucking company out there. I have to say that the map design is actually done really, really well. I would say on par with some of the better Euro Truck, because that was really the failing on the original Euro Truck's map, was that it was kind of bland. But there's little touches here, like driving through the desert and having tumbleweeds blowing across the road. And first time I had that happen, I actually slammed on the brakes because I wasn't sure if I would hit them. But just little touches like that. And this game also has random events happen. Occasionally you'll see a police car on the side of the road with a truck pulled over, for speeding, or some sort of crash that's disrupting the flow of traffic. And that has been transferred over to the Euro Truck by now, on the last update, or last major update, I should say. But it originally came from here, and I think it adds a lot of flavor to what could get to be routine. Just running the same general routes. But gameplay wise, the main thing that's really different here, and I know this is going to seem rather obvious, is just the style of trucks. Euro Truck, it's all these stub-nosed trucks with the engine in the back, and they have a lot shorter wheelbase. But just playing the first, I would say half an hour to an hour, it's getting used to a lot longer wheelbase and actually a lot more powerful truck. That kind of threw me at first, because I got used to Euro Truck after playing it for 50 some hours.
Yeah.
Actually, probably a lot longer than that now. But it's just little things like that, and just having a different area to go to. So I would say really which one to pick up, at least right now, because Euro Truck, I would say, is more diverse, and mostly just because of its age and just having more map DLC. Really depends on the power of the trucks you want to drive, and also just the general maps, because they are still at least somewhat transplantable, the general experience, because at the end of the day, it's still driving a big rig, hauling cargo. But it's really where you want to be. But I kind of poo-pooed American Truck just because I was joking about it being, it's the boring part of the U.S. Well, no, they haven't gotten to the Midwest yet, but still. And I think I'm probably gonna get a hate message for that one. Don't you think so?
Yeah, we'll see.
Come on, you gotta admit that the Midwest is like 20, 30 miles of corn, then another 50 miles of wheat.
It depends on where you go, but it's a lot more than 20 or 30 miles. I've driven through the Midwest a couple of times because Katie's family is from Colorado. And there are some states, some stretches of road where you can go for literally hundreds of miles, and with nothing but farms around you.
Yeah, but occasionally, there's a crazy farmer that's dug up his field and put a baseball diamond in.
If you build it, they will come.
But
I was gonna say something, but that made me forget it. Oh well.
I couldn't help myself. Is it wrong to throw a Field of Dreams reference in?
I don't think so. I think Field of Dreams references are always welcome.
I will say that there's not a lot of DLC out for this yet, but they have one paid DLC and another one on the way, which I hope, well, the next one is going to be Oregon, or Oregon, depending on your pronunciation. I hope whenever that comes out, occasionally Sasquatch just darts across the road.
That would be funny.
Just be a very, very rare event. But they are adding a lot more diversity to the games, which is always a good thing. And also, Euro Truck has an event going on. That's why I don't have 4 hours in this. Is that I've been doing the Euro Truck event where, don't get me wrong, I like just getting on occasionally and driving and hauling things, but having some sort of end goal or something to drive towards, well, other than my destination, of course, is very useful to me. So Euro Truck started up in Appendix. Why I've spent a few more hours in Euro Truck than I have this. Well, at least the last couple of weeks. Overall, I've spent a lot more hours in Euro Truck.
Yeah. I've driven both style of truck in the real world.
Oh, really?
Yeah. I've not driven like an official European.
Yeah, but you know what I mean by there's a difference in the wheelbase that makes a lot of difference in the handling.
I've driven box trucks, which have that same style, the really flat front end and the short wheelbase, and then I have also driven 18-wheelers. Not, I don't have, nor have I ever had a CDL, but if you're not pulling a trailer, at least in Tennessee, you can drive the actual truck part without a CDL. At least you used to could. I don't know if you can anymore. And then box trucks, you don't have to have CDLs for as long as they're not longer than a certain, I think it's 18 feet, like an 18-foot box. But I've driven both, and I have to say that yes, the short wheelbase European style truck has got a much better, much more maneuverable.
Yeah, a lot tighter turning radius, but it's not near as powerful.
Yeah.
And I just didn't really even consider that. I mean, it's obvious whenever you think about it, but it's one of those things that I didn't think about it.
Yeah.
Because whenever I think big rig, outside of just playing Euro Truck, I think of the American style truck because that's what I've seen.
Yeah.
And I just didn't really realize just how maneuverable the Euro Trucks are compared to them. I think that's it. It's going to be interesting to see how American Truck evolves over the years because both this and Euro Truck, I think, still have a lot of life in it. Just on their additional content, the games as services, which Euro Truck also has its expansion coming in the next few months, I believe. It's going to be the Baltic Sea, so up near Scandinavia. I haven't actually seen any more info about that lately, but I haven't really been looking for it. So who knows what they're going to do with it precisely. It's going to be interesting to see how they tie it into the actual map because this will be the first time that you have to have a DLC for a DLC. Which it makes a lot more sense here than it did when EA did it.
Womp womp.
So my last game is also a driving game. Technically. Far Lone Sails. This is a driving exploration / puzzle platform. And this was my Sunday sampler for this last week. And it's an interesting title. It's a very artistic game. Highly artistic. The story of the game, it's open to interpretation. I called it the Dark Souls style of storytelling, where you have your world, but you infer a lot of things from the background, just different events. Which I realized Dark Souls didn't pioneer it, but it's the one that's made it a lot more popular. And that's the style of storytelling in this. And you're given really no information on why you're going on this particular journey outside of just you are. You can infer it from the opening, just a little section of the game, but beyond that, I don't really want to spoil that. What I do want to spoil is my biggest bugbear with the game. Absolutely loved it for the most part. There are sections where the way you control the vehicle, which is through just a series of switches and hitting them by a platform, is very finicky and very irritating, particularly whenever there's a lot more of an urgency to go to try to do certain things, because it's a little bit the zoom is pulled out pretty far, so a lot of precision platforming is very difficult unless you're actually zooming in physically with the trigger, or at least on the gamepad, because that's what I was playing with. But you're kind of really robbing yourself, because a lot of this is the background and seeing what is going on as you're driving past. It's a game of of set pieces, a game of moments, and a game of a journey. But whenever you have a lot of hectic things going on, it kind of falls apart there just because of how clunky the controls are for the actual game. But my biggest problem with this game is
Okay.
I beat this game for the Sunday sample. And
You usually don't play those for super long.
yes, my total play time before the Sunday sampler, and this was including recording tests and having a couple times where I just wasn't getting the solution to the puzzle because I was overlooking this one particular thing. Right under 3 hours. That is a exceptionally short game for a $15 price tag. Granted, it is a high quality experience, but it's very short. And I have to say that the ending kind of comes out of nowhere. Much like I had the problem with Steamworld Dig, this happens here as well, where you're just going along, things happen, you're at the end of your journey. You're left to interpret the meaning of the ending, or if there is a meaning of the ending. I heard the sigh.
I don't know. I kind of like the sound of that, honestly. I'd have to try it for myself to be sure. It doesn't... I mean, I'm not sure if I would purchase this game if I had to purchase it, but I don't have to purchase it because I have a review copy myself.
Yeah, I was a little shocked it wasn't on your list, particularly because I knew it was a short game. But then, again, you probably didn't know it was that short.
Yeah, I didn't know it was short. I'll probably play it this week.
And then talk about it next week before having a big Battletech episode.
Yeah.
The game has a very Studio Ghibli feel to it with how the vehicle changes over time, how it's upgraded, and how it handles, which I actually really like, where it's that clunky style of feeling. It's both clunky in a good and bad way, depending on the circumstances. But thankfully, the hectic moments of the game are very few and far between. If I had to do the elevator pitch for this, I would say, a journey style game of going on a journey, hence journey. With a little bit of Studio Ghibli and the pyromania from Little Inferno, where it's that desperation of burning everything to survive, because as you're driving along, occasionally you have to stop and pick up things to throw in the reactor to burn. And it has that sort of desperation as you're picking up a box to burn, and you're seeing this just ruined shipyard in the background. You figure out, I'm driving along the seabed. Huh. Interesting. And that's a very minor spoiler because it's in the first, 15 minutes.
Yeah. It sounds interesting.
Yeah, it's a very interesting game, and it's a game that I think would actually make a very good game club if it wasn't for already playing it. We could always still it's I think it would have been a lot more interesting of a game club if I hadn't played it. I already know my feelings about it and already possibly spoiling a few things.
Yeah, that's okay. I'm looking at all the screenshots for Far. It's gorgeous.
Yeah, it has that. For the most part, it's actually very washed out. A lot of black and whites with the red of your land ship thing, because you get this giant sail very early on, and the glow of the energy from your reactor. I mean, it's done very well. The screenshots actually don't do it justice because it looks even better.
Yeah, it looks very bleak, but in a proper artistic way. It's hard to describe.
Yeah.
Bleak but beautiful at the same time.
Yeah, sort of like how the newest, I'm pretty sure still, Mad Max was, where it's a very bleak landscape, but it still has this sort of beauty to it.
Yeah.
And the puzzle platform section are fairly straightforward and fairly simple, mostly because they usually revolve around hitting these giant red switches. Very Portal-esque switches, I might add. there's occasionally the curveball where you have to do something that's not exactly obvious and actually kind of counterintuitive a couple of times, but it's not a game breaker. But I gotta say, just that one screenshot where the very, very first screenshot, kind of it tells you what to expect from the game. A very bleak artistic game.
Yeah. Yeah, I like the look of it. I'll be playing it soon.
Yeah.
I don't mind that you've spoiled some little bits of it. Hearing that it's only like 3 hours long is a big plus for me right now.
I would say 3 hours is probably being conservative, or on its time. I would say probably 2.5 is probably a lot safer, and that's just because I was missing a bit, and I was also doing my recording tests, which adds time.
Yeah.
But
awesome.
But that is it for me, and we are right at the hour mark.
Indeed. So let's move on to our news topics. And the first one of the week, a bit of editorializing in the name, but we're going to be discussing the Waifu Woes. In the past week...
You didn't grab all the links for this.
I thought I grabbed everything.
Oh, no.
Well, you can get those, and I'll keep talking. In the past week to 2 weeks, many visual novel style games have received some sort of notification from Steam that they had 30 days, I believe it was 30 days, to shape up or ship out in terms of getting rid of their nudity and sexual content.
Yeah, the Tech Raptor article actually has a list of them. Honey Pop, Mutiny, Kama Sutra, Tropical Liquor, Relord 1, Kindred Spirits on the Roof, Battle Girls / Galaxy Girl, so both of those, two from that studio, Roommates, Sakura Sadist, and several unnamed titles from them as well. They just listed one on their tweet.
Probably all of the Sakura games, honestly.
Yeah, Deep Space Waifu, Coming Out on Top, and Forest Fortress. That's the list that was announced that they had issues.
Yeah. And since the list came out, I remember Honey Pop said something about it, and then later they posted and said that they'd received something from Steam that said that the message was sent to them in error. But it goes deeper than that.
Yes. When this originally came out, I actually tweeted out, this looks way too coordinated. And my bet was a parents group found Steam and found some of the booby games on it. And I wasn't far off, actually. It turns out it was an anti-pornography group. Because, I forgot those were still a thing.
Indeed. I'm sure they're religious too, right?
Highly religious. It's listed under a Chucklefoot's behind it on our version. This is the archive because I didn't want to give them more traffic, especially because they start hitting you with all sorts of, hey, be sure to sign to our email, which I might have signed up for as fuck@you.com.
Nice.
But they had this giant victory thing of victory! Steam to remove sexually explicit and violent video games from the platform. You can almost hear the Bible thumping in the background, huh?
Yeah.
Steam,
by the way, I think
the Walmart of online video game distribution with over 35 million users who are children and teenagers. Because, that's the only people that are fucking on Steam, right? You stupid fucking idiots. Sorry, I may be slightly pissed about this, by the way. Just contacted several video game developers asking them to cover sexually graphic content in their games on Steam or face delisting. This sudden action by Valve, the parent company of Steam, comes after a 2-year aggressive campaign by the National Center on Sexual Exploitation, including the listing of Steam in their 2018 Dirty Dozen list, which is kind of funny. Several of the people that I've seen covering this mentioned that, okay, on their Dirty Dozen list is also Twitter and Facebook, and these guys have a absolutely huge presence on both. So, yeah, definitely a Christian group. Huge hypocrisy. What?
Yeah. So, I think most people who listen to our show understand this, but as the resident expert on this sort of thing, there's nothing wrong with pornography for the large portion of people. If you suffer from some form of sexual addiction, probably shouldn't watch porn. And if you have some personal conviction against it, no problem.
Yeah, but
for the vast majority of people, there's nothing wrong with watching porn. In fact, it can enhance many couples' relationships. Be sure to discuss it with your partner before you just drop that on them. Anyways, I'm done with that.
Well, this group was originally, or I should say, formerly called Neutrality, and which is a lot more obvious on what their tone is, rather than the Center for, in Sexual Exploitation. Because it's a lot more devious than what they really sound like. Continuing on their statement, many games on the Steam platform promotes themes of sexual violence, exhibitionism, and rape, and depict nudity and graphic sex acts. Right. There's a lot of those games on Steam, right?
Oh, yeah. I mean, there are a few. I'll give them that there are a few, sure.
Yeah, but when video games include sexually graphic and degrading themes, the user is not only a voyeur, but an active participant in staging the scene. Do these guys actually think video games are real? That's something that always gets me, is that whenever there's talk about morality in video games, it always acts like the character in the game is a fucking real person. That always, talking about the agency of the character, talking about them being exploited. It's a story. Granted, it may be a little bit naughtier than they like, but it's still a story. And that's just, I don't want to read through the rest of this unless you really want to.
No, you're fine. I clicked on their Dirty Dozen link to see, and at least on the bright side, they seem to be going after multiple industries for multiple things. It's not just Steam, but yeah.
Yeah, they go after Amazon for promoting material that sexualizes children and normalizes the dehumanization and sexual commoditization of women. Where? I don't remember that department.
Yeah, I've never seen any nudity on Amazon, except
items on sale for sale on Amazon include childlike sex dolls, photography books with eroticized child nudity, manga, pornographic magazines. Oh no, and clothing items. Also, they're against clothing items?
But then everyone would be nude.
Their Kindle e-reader is riddled with sexually explicit content, also known as the erotic section, or the Harlequin novels, containing incest, babysitter, and group sex themes. Oh no. What a bunch of prudes, huh?
Yeah, I don't see any nudity on Amazon. Maybe I'm not...
Now you're trying to find
boobs. Oh, that's weird. Boob scares by Gassy Games.
Boob scares. I'm pretty sure that's our alternate title.
Oh, hey. Huh. So you can get Feminique 1000 grams silicone breast forms, and it's got a bunch of size listed. Then fake boobs for cross-dresser / mastectomy patient.
I think we found why they're so up in arms about Amazon.
Oh, boob stress balls. I should get some of those.
All right, Pendulette.
I definitely shouldn't take them to the clinic, though. Even though that would be the best place for them. I'd get in trouble, probably.
Yeah, you
I
need
mean,
to
these
wait
are
at
all
least a week
very
before.
clearly fake. These don't look like real boobs at all. Oh, bare reality. 100 women, their breasts, their stories. So there's some real boobs on that.
And there's also some real boobs in this article. Ooh.
But now we're getting to boob mouse pads, boobies, organic lanolin-free nursing balm for breastfeeding. Okay. I'm on page 4, and I'm not really seeing any more of the nips.
Yeah, but the fact that there's even a chance of it is just too much for him, you know?
Poor Man's Bikini Beach, episode 1.
Uh-oh.
Shit.
Well,
No, I'm
we
not.
found Jared's Amazon buy
Oh,
for
and
the
it's
week.
Prime, too. I could watch that and not have to pay for it.
They did talk about Amazon Prime being a problem.
Poor Man searches the world for the hottest bikini girls and craziest events in his classic TV series, which has run for 17 years. Bam.
But have you ever noticed that whenever these morality groups go after video games, it's always the visual novels?
I think they're the easiest target.
Yeah, particularly most of these are, if they're not single developer, they're very small teams.
Yeah, like the games that are omitted from this list that contain nudity and sexual themes would be, like, big ones would be the Witcher series,
The Grand
Theft Auto series. Which, I mean, those games have not been immune to people attacking them.
Yeah, but they've been
and
more out of
scandalizing them.
the violence in the games, not the nudity. Well, unless you count hot coffee, but that's dry humping of fully clothed models.
But it's so scandalous.
Oh.
But, I mean, games like that have not been included in this because, depending on how cynical you want to be, it's somewhere between they're too big to be affected by this, like, good luck getting through their team of lawyers, all the way to, well, Valve is making all the money from games like that, so why would they get rid of those? But the visual novels, well, we can dump those and look like we've done something.
Yeah,
and it won't hurt our
and there
bottom
would be
line that
people
much.
cheer for them being removed because, hey, it's the anime bullshit getting removed from Steam. I actually saw quite a few people cheering, not for morality, but because, it's an anime game, so get the fuck off my platform. I mean, at least these are actually games. They're not like achievements idlers.
Yeah.
Which I think that's possibly the thing that irritates me the most about this is that Valve will go after the visual novel several times. This isn't the first time they've done this. We actually talked about that several months ago with the game that was called Child Pornography. You remember that?
Yeah. I remember that.
And they didn't respond at all. Valve has this very pick and choose on their policies. But, I've seen a lot of people talking about just Steam is not the place for visual novels anymore. And, seeing them go after visual novels again and again, saying that, okay, well, you have to censor this. You have to, this one's too risque. Even with censorship, you're gone. I have to kind of agree with them, particularly where, it's hard to be discovered.
Yeah.
But there's no real good place for it. I mean, you do have places like Manga Gamer, but that's also very niche to the point where only the people that already know about visual novels will go there, and you're just going to stagnate your market. So there's a very weird situation with the entire genre. And maybe this just requires people to really expand their horizons about visual novels in general and not just dismiss them.
Good luck with that.
I know. Just wait for the current generation of gamer to die. Oh, wait.
That's us.
Fuck. But yeah, Valve really, well, for one, needs to shape up their customer support, which they have been. But they also need to shape up their communication with game developers just in general. And be a lot more transparent on their policies. Not just say, well, your game is too risque, even though it's been on the platform for years. What, you missed Honey Pop? think that one was kind of obvious, right?
Yeah. Yeah, and Honeypop's been out for years now. 3-4 years.
And a lot of these are censored titles. Granted, you can get the uncensored patch. Usually, some of these actually sell the uncensored patch. I'm not sure if they're actually on this list or not, but I know a couple of them actually a couple of the ones I got from Humble Bundle recently sell their decensor patch for actually more with the bundle I bought them. But they just keep ratcheting down on these visual novels to the point where it's tough to really say that they have a place on Steam, as much as I hate to say it. But Valve is forcing them out. I don't want to see them go, but it's hard to see it otherwise.
Yeah. I mean, I suppose time will tell. Has there been any, because the Honeypop devs said that Steam told them they received that message in error, which I assume means they're safe for now, but what about everyone else?
I would say, everyone else pretty much said the same thing, but in error, I think that's a code for, oh shit, we didn't realize the backlash it was just going to cause.
Yep.
Because I saw several campaigns saying, oh, no, don't do this. And, there's still the vocal group saying, yeah, let's do this, because, promoting censorship on an entire genre is definitely not going to backfire in the long run, right? I mean, I realize slippery slope is a logical fallacy, but I think it kind of applies in this case.
Yeah. I think you're right.
There was also one other humorous thing I didn't put on the show notes because the site is extremely not safe for work, more so than pretty much anything else we've ever learned. But one of the adult visual novel publishers out there, you could just do search bullets for boobies. And I'm pretty sure it'll come up.
Oh, I know. I've seen that.
Yeah, where they were funding removing violence from games and replacing them with breasts and nudity.
I support this.
Pointing out the double standard of violence and nudity. And there was also a quote I've seen going around from George R. Martin talking about how he could describe axe being going through a human skull and not get near the outrage of a dick going in a pussy. And he says it a lot more eloquently, but you know me, I'm not that.
Yeah. I mean, in American culture, that's true. We readily accept violence, but anything having to do with sex or sexuality or nudity is like, whoa there.
Think of the children.
Think of the children. And I think that that's completely backwards.
Yeah, these groups that go so far on these particular issues, they seem to, the phrase "don't protest too much" often pops up in my mind. Like, okay, what deep secrets these groups have? I realize that's probably an overcharacterization, but we've seen far too often, some of these groups, the anti-gay groups particularly, have members come out that, he was just repressing how gay he was because, he was in a bathroom blowing a guy.
Yeah.
Or a cop in a bathroom blowing a guy. And that's come out several times. So it makes me wonder the history behind this group. Or, what deep secrets they're hiding. Or they're just, crazy prudes.
Little column A, little column B.
I love how you're being so PC about
it. That's what I do. That's part of my job most of the time, is to be as gentle as possible.
Oh, wow.
Alrighty.
Do you have any comments about this? Because it's been mostly me bitching.
I mean, I've made comments.
Well,
I just am not.
Any closing comments. Maybe it's just because visual novels are kind of my guilty pleasure. I'm an extremely hard critic for anything except visual novels. Then it's okay. Does it give me a headache trying to read it? Does it look like the person actually has an artistic license? I was making a joke there.
You guys, you get on to me for my visual novel choices all the time.
Yeah, but you're usually on the even worse end. And you
Those
have
are the ones that are the most fun, though. The schlocky ones, the
you have
schlockier, the better.
But I think it's more. You haven't even read the good ones.
The schlockier, the better. I don't have guilty pleasures. I just have pleasures, and I gain tremendous pleasure from schlocky visual novels.
Well, see, to have guilty pleasures, you have to have shame.
Exactly. No shame, no guilt. But no,
And
I
no
don't think I have
pants.
any closing comments. I mean, I think that this is stupid. But
Yeah, supposedly the way they got to Valve was going after PayPal, the payment systems, and basically trying to trigger their anti-pornography things, and eventually put pressure on Valve. So I understand why Valve did it if that's the case, but once again, they need to be more open, more communicative, which I realize isn't exactly Valve's strong suit. I do think Valve needs to hire a PR firm. Or, just get more interns to do it.
yeah.
Because that's always been
More
Valve's
interns.
Valve's problem is that they never communicate. And sometimes that's good. A lot of times that's bad, though. In this case, it's been very bad. I could just imagine David open up his mouth the day after. It's like, what the hell happened? Because you know that there was other campaigns of Gavin.
Indeed. Okie dokie. Moving on to the next news topic.
Hey, it's still Valve related.
It is indeed 2 new Steam mobile apps.
Yes, which one is
So I
already
don't know.
out.
Okay, I was gonna say I don't know a lot about these.
I've done a little bit of toying around. There are 2 different apps. One is a video app for essentially the video content that's on Steam. The anime that's on Steam that survives the censorship. Some of the movies and videos, and I assume that they're going to throw in the Steam streaming as well for the like half dozen people that actually use that. But it allows you to view the video content that's on Steam through a mobile app. Very Netflix-ish. That was actually very hard for me to say. Netflix-like. Okay? The other one is actually the more interesting one to me. It's essentially the Steam Link mobile app, where it acts as a Steam Link to your phone. The reason why this is so interesting to me is that I've committed the mortal sin of having an AMD video card, so most of the good mobile streaming solutions will not work for me because they rely on the Moonlight system, which is, of course, NVIDIA owned and operated. And in my initial testing of it, it actually runs pretty well, and it does a couple things that I wanted some of the other streaming things to do that it just doesn't. For one, it uses the touchscreen as a touchscreen. Now, I know that sounds rather crazy, but a few of the streaming, or a few of the better streaming solutions I've found, will use press and drag it to manipulate the mouse. In this, you tap and it clicks there. And it makes a lot of difference in the usability of the program. And it has native built-in Bluetooth naturally through the phone. I haven't done enough testing with it to really say that it works all that well. Like I said, I just toyed around with it to be able to see how it handles. But I've seen a lot of people complain about crashing and a lot of issues, particularly with PlayStation 4 controllers, and I haven't been able to test it yet because I just hadn't had the time. And I actually planned on doing that tonight, but we're recording tonight. And that would have been the one difference if we recorded tomorrow. But this is probably going to be, me laying down, reading a visual novel or something that doesn't require a lot of finesse.
Yeah. That would be a great use of it. So I was aware of what this app did. The one that you said was more like a Netflix type deal. I wasn't aware of that, but this one, the Steam Link app.
Yeah. Oh, the 20-30 minutes up playing around with it actually ran really well. But then again, I didn't run into any issues that people are complaining about. It seems it's been updated at least twice. So they are actively working on it.
Yeah, my kid. But I was trying to think of what would be good games for it, and I completely forgot about playing visual novels on it.
I would say actually something a 4X strategy like Civ on a tablet would work really well with this. Platformers, assuming that you have good enough latency, because this is working over Wi-Fi, so you are going to have a little bit of issue with that. But I would say most phones, the resolution difference would make up for it. Unless you have a 4K phone or a 4K tablet, Wi-Fi should be fine for it.
Yeah, well, I mean they exist.
Yeah, they definitely exist.
Not sure what my phone's resolution is.
Yeah, I'm not sure mine either.
Googling.
Yeah, we're doing the same thing. Mine is 1440 by 2560, which is an oddball resolution, but it works well enough.
I can adjust the resolution.
Fancy.
Let's see. Native resolution 2960 by 1440. You can scale it down to 1920 by 1080 or 1280 by 720.
Yeah, which it does have options to do that in the app itself already. I just have mine set to automatic native resolution.
So what is... See, that would be 1440. So it's technically an ultra wide screen?
Yeah.
Right? 60 by 40.
I'd say RPGs would actually work really well for this. Yeah, well, something not like Divinity, but more traditional RPGs.
Yeah.
Or particularly anything that has good controller support.
Yeah, I bought an Xbox 360 controller or not Xbox 360, an Xbox One controller, one of the new ones that has Bluetooth, so that I don't have to hack my Wii U Pro controller anymore to make it work. So this would be interesting to try out some different games using a controller. Just put my phone on the stand and
I just didn't
try
get
playing
the time.
a few games. Yeah, I might try
that
that
I've also
out for
seen
next
a
week.
lot of people touring around with the Steam controller and making 3D printing out phone holders for it.
Yeah.
Which I imagine that's probably the ideal solution because you have a lot of flexibility with that.
Yeah, I'll have to try that out.
I have to say, the bit I played with it, it did impress me. But I didn't play it enough to really give it a stress test. The video one, it really depends on how much video content they eventually get on Steam, because right now it's still fairly limited.
Yeah, they've added... Well, I don't know how much they've added recently. I remember that at one point they were adding movies fairly rapidly. But...
I
don't
maybe
know.
It's just I don't pay attention to it because I just don't go to that section. But let's see. I'm on the video section of Steam, which I rarely go on to. I think I just kicked up a tumbleweed. But I don't recognize really any of this outside of. Oh! Hang on! I found something for you.
What did you find for me?
Do you feel scared?
No. Should I?
Maybe we should send this to Morality and Media.
Dirty Grandpa Unrated.
This is on Steam.
This would have to be terrible.
Oh, I imagine it is. It has 6 user reviews. One which says literally unwatchable. I mean, seriously, the stupidest thing. Well, it looks like it's more. It doesn't run.
1,523 results. That's a decent category or catalog. I mean, there's
but
a cajillion movies and TV shows and stuff, but for a service that's primarily video games, that's not too bad.
I mean, there's some odd things on here, like the making of Horizon Zero Dawn. That's not even a PC game, so it's weird that I have it on Steam.
It's a popular game, though.
Yeah. Oh, they have Jigsaw.
Woo.
Oh, here you go. Here's something that'll interest you a lot more. My Little Pony.
Whoa! My little pony.
So maybe there is more for this than I was really expecting, because I thought I just hadn't gone to the video section at all. I mean, there's really no reason for me to. They have Spartacus, all 4 seasons of that.
That's pretty good.
Yeah.
Awesome.
Yeah, so maybe there is more to this. And I imagine since they're putting the app out, they're going to focus a lot more on this. Which it makes sense, right? Not wanting to put the cart before the horse.
Yeah.
So get a bit of content out there. Get the app to make it a lot more accessible, then start going crazy on it. Do you think that's their scheme here?
Probably. Although honestly, with Valve, with Steam, sometimes you can't really tell at all.
Yeah, Valve with Steam is rather schizophrenic. Just because of their corporate structure. They're a very flat corporate structure where it's, little teams doing oddball things. And then, someone screws up and then Gaben's email inbox gets flooded.
Yeah.
I'm kind of scrolling through here. I'm not going to buy any of this. Mostly because I have Amazon Prime. So most of this, it's kind of redundant, or, it just doesn't interest me.
Yeah.
And I'm scrolling through pages and finding maybe one thing, and that's going through entire genres.
Yeah, I don't know if I'd get anything from Steam. I mean, I have Prime and Netflix. And do we have Hulu? I think we just recently got Hulu again. So, yeah.
Yeah, I think my major problem with Steam is a lot of this. A good chunk of it is rental stuff, and if I'm gonna get it on Steam, I'm gonna buy it. Granted, there are some animes on here that I've seen that actually wasn't bad, so maybe that's the big section, is the anime section.
Yeah.
They have Toradora. That's actually a really good show, and I could almost hear the blank look.
Yep, never seen it. Don't think I've heard of it before.
It's a very good romance show. Yeah, we need to do anime sometime.
I agree. At some point, we'll figure it out.
Yeah.
Oh.
But
all right.
it looks like the Steam Video app, once it finally comes out, has more legs on what I really thought. It's going to be an anime thing, which isn't bad as long as Valve doesn't have to go Puritan on it again.
Yeah, fingers crossed.
Oh, Braves of the Six Flowers. That was actually a really good show.
Oh, okie dokie. Time to get us back on track. Move on to our next news topic, which is Boss Key Productions shuts down. That is, in case you were unaware or have forgotten, Cliffy B's company, the same people who made, what's the recent Battle Royale? Something Heights. Radical Heights. There you go. They made Radical Heights. They shut down, though.
I'm sorry, but it's hilarious that you forgot it.
Well, that's how memorable the whole thing was.
What was their other game?
It's not very memorable either.
Lawbreakers.
You remembered. Good job. But yeah,
Well, that's
they
my
shut
job
down
to remember this.
between two colossal monetary failures.
Well, Lawbreakers, they spent a lot of money promoting, and even its free beta, it never really got off the ground.
Yeah.
I mean, its beta period had, what was it, just over 10,000 players, and for a open beta on a first-person shooter that was being heavily promoted, that's abysmal.
Yeah.
But then again, they also announced originally that it was going to be a free-to-play, and then they turned around and made it, what was it, $30 price tag on release?
Yeah, $30, which was not, like, too expensive, I felt, for, like, a brand new game.
But you're also...
I mean, they were going up against...
Overwatch.
Yep.
Overwatch and Team Fortress 2 are the two big ones. Well, even though technically TF2 is not a hero shooter, it's close enough.
Yeah.
So, you're going up against two very big established titles, and you have a movement system that is not exactly intuitive, and you don't explain it that well with the whole zero-G thing. It's not hard to see why Lawbreakers got banned and just never took off. And then Cynical Heights, which I realize Radical Heights, but Jim Sterling just has Cynical Heights locked into my brain, even though it's not very off base, because they launched in what they called extreme early access. So extreme they don't even have textures on most of the buildings. Well, not most of them, but a good chunk of them. And movement systems weren't working correctly. Every video I saw had jerky animations. Zip lines were just seizure-inducing flicker fests. There was a good chunk of people talking about how to get around what was that, pink screen or blue screen, whatever, launching full screen.
Yeah. I think it was blue. I don't remember precisely. But it had lots of problems. Just condense all of that to it was a shit show, last-ditch effort to save the company.
It was obvious that they were just chasing the Battle Royale money, because they lost a lot on Lawbreakers. I mean, it was obvious to pretty much everyone. And the fact that they were selling a lifetime pass to the game and folded up within a few weeks, I would have to say that would leave a very, very, very sour taste in my mouth, because it was a $20 premium for what was originally actually a little bit pay to win.
Yeah, in sort of an odd literal sense in the game, because you could get a bank that you could store money from game to game, and then you could access equipment faster by spending money on it.
Yeah, but their defense of it was, well, when you're using the ATM, you're completely vulnerable.
Yeah. Very vulnerable. The most vulnerable.
Yeah, particularly people that bought into this.
But I can't remember exactly how long ago it was, but we didn't exactly call this, but we said that this was going to be a big possibility.
I think I'm pretty sure I said, if this doesn't take off, the company's dead. It felt way too much of a cash grab. I'm pretty sure I said that. If I didn't, you did. But that tone sounds a lot more like me.
Yeah. I think we
agreed on it.
I think you said it and I agreed with you. Because I said I felt like this was a last-ditch effort. How quick it came out.
It was just way too rough looking. Even by early access standards. Because early access has some pretty low standards, to be perfectly honest.
Yeah.
But for a Battle Royale game, unless you're player unknown, you need at least somewhat solid shooting mechanics. Yes, I went there.
Yeah. But, yeah, that threw me off. You saying that threw me off. I don't know why, but my brain just kind of shut down for a second.
So you encountered a bug?
I did. I encountered a bug. I wish the best to everyone from that company, including Cliff Bleszinski. Used to, and I think we may have said this before too. Like he had a stellar reputation for being like a big ideas guy. And
do you think
he was?
Oh, sorry, go ahead.
He was great if he had somebody to rein him in.
I was about to say,
like
he's Lord
George,
he's George Lucas. He needs that short leash and a choke collar.
Yeah, and when he set out on his own, he just couldn't rein it in. I hope he learned how to do that, and I don't think
he retired from video game development again after this.
Yeah, I thought he said he was just going to be taking a break though, not that he was retiring forever.
Well, that's what a lot of people are calling it, as a temporary retirement. So,
okay.
Or I should say, the articles I've been about this, because I was looking at this, and I was also over the last several weeks, occasionally I would check on Radical Heights, and I actually have to pause to say the proper name. Player accounts, because I was interested to see what would happen. I wasn't cheering for its demise, but I wasn't surprised to start seeing that downward trend actually happen fairly quickly.
Yeah.
To the point where it was getting under 1,000 daytime peak, which for any other genre is decent enough, but Battle Royale, no.
Yeah. I'm not sure if I was expecting it to last longer. I'm not sure how I feel on how long it specifically lasted, but I'm not, I'm not surprised to see that it...
I'm a little surprised that it happened so quickly, particularly selling the premium edition. Because, that has to leave people salty.
They did say that the Radical Heights servers were going to be up for the near future. I don't know how long near future is, but...
Well, just don't hold them to a time frame, I guess.
Probably however long they paid up for their servers.
Yeah, most likely. I mean, there were people that enjoyed it. Maybe it's just, I'm tired of seeing Battle Royale in general, but the 80s motif, it just didn't feel like it added anything, and just was distracting and cheesy, and not in the good way cheesy.
Yeah.
Because there are games that does the 80s well, like Blood Dragon. But it's, 80s plus, something else. Or taking a general idea. And this, it was just basically copy and paste BMX bikes in a lot of neon colors. I think this would have done a little bit better if they went full Running Man instead of doing Battle Royale. And I realized they didn't have the time to really develop any. This was, pretty much their last effort. And Battle Royale is that easy to make. That's the reason why you see so many of them. And, well, get to that in a little bit, but the idea that going a full-on Running Man-esque game could be very interesting. As a subgenre to this game, or genre, or however you want to splice it. Doing an active hunt down a person, like Evolve tried to do, but make it so that it's not as easy to do hide and seek. I don't know. It's a very, very tough thing to do. That's probably why we haven't seen it.
Yeah. I wonder what's next for all of them. Cliffy's going on his little break. I wonder how much this is going to tarnish his reputation and make him
Peter Molyneux.
I mean, there was a time when people would have given him anything that he wanted. Hell, that did happen, and we see what happened. So I wonder how much distance the larger publishers and companies that he might look to in the future are gonna
back away from him.
Gonna give him. Yeah.
Well, this does put into a whole new light that story we covered quite a while. Well, not quite a while ago, but a few weeks ago. about him complaining about Epic poaching his staff. Rats from a stinking ship? Yep.
Yeah, definitely.
I mean, we definitely called that one. I mean, it's hard to really fault the employees that left and were offered something from Epic and the other companies, assuming that they even sought them out and it wasn't the other way around. Which, honestly, with everything that's come out about Radical Heights, especially being a last gasp, frantic, grasping at straws, employees that were paying attention to the company, I do not blame them for leaving at all. Especially going to Epic, which probably really, really got a Cliffy B salty.
Yeah. But I don't blame him for leaving either.
Yeah.
I probably would. I can't think of any company or job I've ever had that I would stay loyal to in that situation.
Especially when it's clear that the deck is listing a little bit.
Yeah. I don't think I would leave immediately, but by the point where that they were leaving, I think that they'd stuck it out
was only
and
a
hoped for
couple
the best
weeks
and
before.
they saw the writing on the wall. But yeah. Good luck, guys. I don't think any of you listen to the show, but if you do, good luck.
Yeah. Oh, I'm sorry for most of the mean things I said. Not all of them.
You're not. You're not. Don't lie to them.
Okay, I'm sorry I called it Cynical Heights at one time. When we're covering its death.
Uh-huh.
What?
All right. Something that I hope is not cynical. Microsoft's new Xbox controller, which is designed for accessibility, has been revealed. The
original
news article says leaks ahead of reveal, but that was one of the things from 2 weeks ago, and it's been officially revealed now.
Well, I'm pretty sure I put updated links as well, so along with the reveal trailer. So you just needed to editorialize that, but you didn't.
Right. That's effort. This is an interesting.
You gonna put out a battle royale now?
Yeah, this is an interesting looking thing. It's a great idea. It looks weird,
Yeah,
but
it looks like a controller from DJ Hero.
Yeah. But it's got a lot of things that plug into it. Just the various buttons and things that the controller can do.
Really talk about what this is. This is essentially an accessibility device for the Xbox and by extension the PC, with a lot of flexibility on its capabilities. It has on the back of it 3.5mm jacks that you can plug various control mechanisms into to hit the different controller buttons. And it's meant for disabled people to be able to play games again. And it also has 2 giant buttons that are also configurable.
Yeah. This is wonderful. One of the things, the more, this sort of morbid thing I've always wondered is, what happened, what would ever happen to me with, gaming being my biggest hobby? If something happened and I wound up disabled or lost an arm or a hand or something, I try not to think about that all the time, but every once in a while, you have those, thoughts about life.
Well, one of the YouTubers I watch, Ben Heck, he actually does make disabled accessible controllers, usually single-handed controllers that are an official controller broken down, reconfigured. He's done videos on it several times, and he occasionally sells them, but they're hugely expensive. They're complete custom jobs, and they have to be custom jobs for each individual person because different motor skills or different circumstances. Someone may have lost their left hand. Well, they have to build a right-handed version, or they may have neurological disorder, so they have less dexterity, so they can't manipulate certain buttons. So they have to do bigger buttons or easier to press buttons. This takes a lot of the effort out of the design because everything is essentially plug and play, and it's going to have various additional things you could plug into it that could be different triggers. It could have a straw that you blow into to trigger the button, for example, if someone is completely paralyzed from the neck down. It's a very, very fascinating thing to see a first-party controller like this.
Yeah. But I hope this paves the way for other versions or ideas regarding this from Sony and Nintendo and perhaps some of the other larger hardware manufacturers. I'm not quite sure who would pick this up more on the PC side, but I mean, this is a maybe.
Valve, Alienware, maybe, Logitech.
By Valve some good PR. Although granted, they still don't need good PR. Like, as much as we rag on them in general, most people don't think they need good PR.
Yeah, I mean, Valve does all right in general, but their screw ups are a lot more high profile. But yeah, I could definitely see someone like a company like Logitech doing it. Because I mean, they're close to it with their MMO mice.
Yeah,
I mean, I'm holding an MMO mouse right now in my hand. Do you want to know what my other hand is?
Oh my!
But
don't tell me, my imagination is doing the work.
But it's not a far jump from an MMO mouse to something similar to this on the PC side of things, just because of how configurable it is. Especially with some of the other MMOs I've seen that actually have the entire side panel swappable to different button configurations.
Yeah.
So I could definitely see this being a more accessible thing in the future for various companies to look into. And this also could be useful not just for disabled people, but also modders and people that want to build custom control mechanisms, because they could hook it directly into this, because it's a pretty standard 3.5mm jack. Build that steel battalion controller you always wanted.
That's an interesting use for it that I hadn't thought of.
Well, I was trying to think.
That would be cool, though.
I was trying to think of something not just for accessibility, but also something additional to it, and that's the first thing I thought of was modders.
Yeah, it's not that expensive either. I mean, it's priced at $100, which is around the price tag of the Xbox Elite controller.
Yeah, but this also requires doesn't require, but it's built around having additional control mechanisms added onto it.
Yeah.
But
I mean, it's not
meant to be
prohibitively expensive. It's more expensive than their standard controller, which makes sense. This is one larger. It's roughly the size of a keyboard, maybe a little bit thicker. But I mean, it's not something that you hold. You sit it on a table, use it that way. But it's larger, and that makes sense. Because in their demo video or their reveal video, I can't remember which one, but they showed a guy playing it, and he was missing a hand. So he was using one of the giant buttons as like and emulating a joystick.
I mean, this
one of the joysticks. I mean,
this looks a lot better than stuff that Ben Heck did, which I just linked to you, where he, for example, he has a left-handed Xbox One controller, where he's moved the D-pad and the face buttons to the side of the controller with an additional trigger that you get to manipulate. It's interesting design. It would work, but this thing from Microsoft, I think, would work a lot better overall.
Yeah, this is crazy watching him or someone play play Halo with this thing. I mean,
that's
got like a little thing moving on his leg.
Yeah, it has a little nub on the bottom of it.
Yeah, that's neat.
But he's it was a complete custom job to try to make a left-handed or just a right-handed home controller. And this is a lot more of an elegant solution, a lot easier to personalize.
Yeah.
Which
interesting.
I think that's going to be the big thing for this, is that it opens up the hobby to people that weren't able to do it anymore. Because you were talking about becoming disabled, and that can hit you just rather suddenly. Believe me, I know.
Yeah. You have an accident or a weird disease or cancer or something. I mean, if I get like cancer in my arm, fuck it, cut it off. I mean, I don't want to lose my arm, but my life's not worth it. And that's the easiest way to get rid of cancer is to essentially, if you can, hack off the body part where it came up.
Yeah, it works like that in RimWorld. But gaming is a medium that requires a certain amount of dexterity. For the most part, there are genres that don't require that.
Yeah.
But in order to play a first-person shooter, you need a certain amount of hand-eye coordination, a certain amount of dexterity, a certain amount of mental acuity. And, for somebody that's lost part of their hand or a hand or just having a neurological issue, that this could open up the game world to them again.
Yeah. And I think that's great. Good job, Microsoft. You did a good thing. You did a good.
Yeah, and I really like that they are not making this a proprietary control system. It's running the X input system, so this is still viewed as an Xbox controller. So it could work on Windows pretty much immediately. It's just they're going to have custom control drivers for Windows later on to be able to program a little bit easier. That's at least what I've believe I've this. But yeah, good on Microsoft. I'm hoping to see more of these in the future from the big console manufacturers. I think Nintendo is going to be the last one, honestly.
Nintendo's usually the last one on stuff like that.
Well,
they'll be the first to innovate.
Well, Nintendo has a weird control mechanism to begin. The Wii was a lot easier in general to be able to use disability, but it was still required a certain dexterity. The Switch is a lot tougher.
Yeah.
So I think Sony is probably going to take this if they have it all and have it in development.
Yeah.
So,
I think they will.
Anything else? I mean, do you think this would be useful for a profession for therapy to make video gaming a little bit easier so it's not as required for a certain amount of hand-eye coordination? To make it a little bit easier just in general? Because I know you use gaming in therapy sometimes.
Yeah, I use gaming in therapy pretty frequently, honestly, but probably I just don't have any personal experience working with...
Well, I wasn't talking about specifically disabled people, but being able to have a controller that's a lot easier to handle for someone that's not used to a game.
Yeah, it would be helpful. Most people can pick up and use a controller for pretty simple stuff, but anything too complicated, if they don't have a history of gaming, you run the risk of them being frustrated at it. And
you don't
definitely
put me in a first-person shooter trying to use a controller.
Yeah. But so yeah, this could definitely be helpful in that respect. I don't know. I'd have to give it a try. I wonder if I could expense this my new clinic. It's for therapy, I promise. Maybe I'll try it later after I've been there for a little while.
Okay, we understand it's for therapy, but why do you have the codpiece controller?
Yes. Yes, I do have that controller. All right. Next news topic. Here, some net neutrality news.
Yeah, this is something that we never actually covered, I don't think, because this happened in an odd week for us, the decision, and we just kept pushing it back. So, do we want to go for an overall thing on what is net neutrality first?
We can. I would say most people in our audience know. We've definitely talked about that before. What is net neutrality?
Yeah.
I mean, just very briefly, very in general, net neutrality is the idea of a free and open internet where that nothing has priority Um, your ISP, Internet Service Provider, can't prioritize certain content over other content. They have to give you everything at the same rate.
Or more importantly,
technically,
can't throttle certain content over other content.
Right. That is a better way to say what I said, at the same rate. They're just, in case anyone's wondering, there is priority content that exists, like hospitals, for example. Their traffic is prioritized over your gaming or whatever. But that makes sense to me. So those are okay preference, or okay, okay, preferential content treatment. But beyond that, like, if you want to watch videos on YouTube, your ISP, for example, if they're Comcast, can't throttle that content, so it's basically unwatchable. Point you towards their service.
So they can't say, "Hey, we have an understated Hulu. Why don't you try them instead?"
Yeah.
Which the guy with the most punchable face in, well, at least his division of government, Ajit Pai, put out some rather cringy videos, essentially saying, "Hey, you can still do all the things you want without net neutrality because it wasn't important beforehand," completely negating the fact that the reason why net neutrality was put in place in the first place was that Comcast and a lot of the big ISPs were throttling BitTorrent traffic and were actually being actively sued by users.
Yep. So, anyways, the FCC voted to remove the net neutrality rules that were enacted under the Obama administration. And that was set to take place soon.
Yeah, it was supposed to take place next month, June 11th.
Right. In the Senate last week, there was a vote, and the Senate voted to suspend the suspension of the rules.
Yeah, there's a thing in place where policy rulings can be overridden by the government. And up until recently, it's been rarely used, but lately it's been used quite a bit. And this is one of those cases where it's actually a fairly decent thing. So the House now must pass this, and then it goes to the president.
Yeah. It's extremely unlikely that the House will also pass this, and if they do, it's extremely likely that the president will veto this.
Yeah, which
but for the time being, everything's on pause.
Yeah. Which this has been voted essentially along party lines, with a couple of Republicans crossing over to vote in favor of reinstating. That's the only reason why it passed in the first place.
Yep.
And I believe the House of Representatives has a lot wider division between the parties.
Yeah.
If memory serves correctly, I may be mistaken on that.
Yeah, it's real close in the Senate, but in the House, it's not as close. Nowhere near as close, I don't believe.
But it's this is essentially for one, a delaying tactic, but also putting people on notice on who is in favor and who isn't for voting later on. And I realize that we are deeply into politics now. I do apologize for anyone that's having to suffer through this, but especially to our international listeners who may be thinking, why is this such a big deal? Well, the internet still goes through the United States, and those throttling will still affect you. So, it's still a big deal. And as much as I hate to say this, the United States does push certain amounts of policy worldwide. And other countries will take notice and think, hey, we could do this as well. Even though this seems like an incredibly stupid idea.
Sorry, I was coughing there for a second. You folks won't notice it because I'll cut it out, but Rage had to sit there for a couple of seconds of silence. Fortunately, many other countries
are more tax savvy
who have followed the United States in policy, or and with similar policy. Many of those countries think that our country is batshit insane right now, which it is, and they're not doing that anymore, which is good. Also, many other countries are way ahead of us. I think most countries, if not all of them, are still maybe behind the curve a little bit, but nowhere near as behind as the United States is. So many European countries already have stronger and better net neutrality rules than we do.
Protection as well.
They have better, they have better consumer protection laws in general,
it seems like
which
the
helps.
only place that the U.S. really strides, well, at least for the time being, is science research, which is they're falling behind there because Chinese myth, and also handicap accessibility.
Really?
Yeah.
All right.
I was saw a GIF on Reddit talking about showing a escalator in Japan, how it could be turned into a chairlift, and there was a huge discussion about accessibility in various countries, and comparing it to the United States, where the U.S. actually passed accessibility laws, in some cases a decade before other countries, and a lot of countries are having to scramble and put accessibility into infrastructure that doesn't really support it. So that's one place where the United States just being so spread out actually helps out, because we're not as cramped, and so there's a lot of more room to be able to redo infrastructure.
Huh. Well, good for us in that regard, I guess.
Yeah. Now, granted, if you need medical coverage because you're disabled, you are screwed. But
oh yeah, you're fucked in the States.
Hey, but hey, at least you could be wheeled around relative ease as you're in crippling pain.
Yeah, that's good, I guess. That counts for something. Maybe not enough, but something.
But I love I got completely off guard with a handicap access.
I guess a broken clock can be right twice every few decades. I don't know. That's not entirely fair.
Yeah. Well, at least in the United States, I don't know how it is in other countries, but it seems like each regime change, whenever there's a large swing in government power between the two parties, they have to spend a good chunk of time erasing the previous legacy. I mean, that's accessible, very apparent with Trump. But Obama had to undo things that Bush did. Bush was undoing things Clinton did, and so on and so on. So there's a lot of back and forth. There's not a lot of progression.
Yeah.
And it's really because the two parties are so opposed on many key aspects of policy. There's not a lot of agreement in some areas. But we're very, very, very good right now.
Indeed. Let's step away from that and step towards
another landmine.
Another landmine. Call of Duty Black Ops 4 will have no Steam release or single player. They will instead have Battle Royale.
I'm not looking forward to E3. There's going to be so many fucking Battle Royale modes.
Yep. There are many people who don't play the single player campaign in Call of Duty. That's fair. But upon watching Young Ye's video where he looked at specifically the PlayStation stats for a couple of the Call of Duty games,
I don't video. I'll do that.
I don't remember which games he looked at. I know he looked at World War II,
and
the most
last
recent
Black Ops game, I believe.
Okay, but I mean, it's still something like 50% of players play enough of the campaign to get the trophy or the achievement for completing the first mission, and something like 25% of players overall complete the entire campaign. Compared to, I believe it was only in like the 20% of users who play multiplayer far enough to get the first prestige, which, in case you don't know, prestige mode is, in Call of Duty, this has been a thing for a long time. Level up and unlock new weapons and whatnots, and then when you hit the max level, you can do what's called prestige, which resets you back to level 1, but you get like some sort of special thing. It's been like icons in the past, like, or special skins for weapons, that sort of thing. And only something like it was around 20 to 25% of players had actually prestiged. And he said that those would probably be your core audience that you're going after.
Yeah, I just dropped the
so
link
they're cutting out.
so it'll be in the show notes.
And so in the estimate number of people, and this was just on, I believe, PlayStation, or did he extrapolate to total sales?
He showed Steam, and he also extrapolated sales and then percentage of sales.
So it's something like 5 million players were not gonna who had completed the single player campaign were now not gonna be able to do so in the new game.
Mm-hmm.
And their bullshit reasoning, which I agree with him that it's bullshit, that they're saying is, oh no, we're gonna be telling stories in new and interesting ways through the multiplayer. This has never been done before, which it has with Titanfall. The first Titanfall tried to have a multiplayer campaign, which failed miserably. Because like people played it one time. It's like 3 or 4 hours total, and then never played it again. And if you came to the game late, you couldn't play it.
Yep.
But anyways, the real reason is that multiplayer segment, they're banking on being enough repeat business through, I don't know, loot boxes or microtransactions or something, outweighing those potential lost sales for people like me who only care about the campaigns and zombies mode. Zombies mode sometimes.
Yeah, let's see. Well, I went over to Steam's achievements. Long Way from Texas, I believe you said, was the first mission in Call of Duty World War II in the campaign. And that is 71.6%.
Okay, so 71% of players played the campaign at least enough to get the achievement for beating the first mission.
Yeah, I'm just double checking to make sure that's the first mission, but yes, that's the first mission the campaign. So it's beating the first mission. 71%. So yeah, they're just not being transparent and saying, we don't want to put the money into it, or possibly there's technical issues, even though there's been reports that we've never really tried to do the campaign, which seems foolish, especially for a full price game like this, and not really try to give enough value to the game otherwise.
Yeah. I haven't bought the last few Call of Duty games.
Let's see, To the End, which is complete the campaign, 38.3% on Steam.
Okay, so it's higher than. Well, no, he was looking at the PlayStation numbers though. Then there's not going to be a Steam release for this new one.
Yeah, so that loses a few casual sales. Granted, it's still going to be on the Battle.net. So, it's going to be there for people that want it, but people that may never really heard of Call of Duty, which I realize seems crazy, but there are new people that come into the gaming all the time, and there is the lucky 10,000. By average, a person, 10,000 people learn a new thing every day. XKCD.
Yep. I love that. In that particular one, they're like, "What's this thing?" It's like, "You're one of today's 10,000." I love XKCD. There really is one for everything. Anyways, though, yeah, I haven't bought the last few Call of Duties. The last one the most recent one that I own is Advanced Warfare, and I got that one as a Christmas present or a birthday present from my mom a couple of years ago.
The only one I have is Kyle sent it to me to play Zombies mode. I just did not care for it.
Yeah, the original Black Ops. Which, I mean, I liked the campaign well enough in Advanced Warfare. It was fine, but I never touched the multiplayer because I don't give a shit about multiplayer. And I want to buy Infinite Warfare at some point, but they never go on sale. Well, not never, but they very rarely go on sale.
And they don't
Steam.
go on any type of major discount.
Yeah. So I'm not going to buy that game at, full price or close to full price for the 8-hour campaign. But eventually I will. I mean, I've played all of them up to Advanced. No, I didn't. Let's see. I didn't play Black Ops 3. Advanced Warfare. I played Black Ops 1 and 2. I didn't play Call of Duty Ghosts. I've played most of them. And the last time I really heavily played the multiplayer on a Call of Duty game was when I was in high school. Or maybe in college. My first couple of years when I still played games with those friends that I had. But, I mean, especially once I started playing PC games, I don't play multiplayer very much on anything. Especially not a fast-paced, well, in quotes, fast-paced, because console shooters are quite slow.
But they have auto-aim.
They do. And that's really nice for when I don't feel like doing anything.
It always feels weird whenever I pop onto Twitch and I see one of the tournaments for Call of Duty or something. If they're using consoles, it's like they're auto-aim.
There's still a degree of skill involved.
Yeah, but I mean, not as much as I would want to see.
Yeah. We can maybe have that conversation another time.
On the general topics list?
Yeah, maybe. But anyways. Yep, I
mean, granted, I don't really have a horse in this race. I don't care about Call of Duty all that much. But I still think it's bullshit. And it's more just exhausting about Battle Royale in general.
Yeah.
Which I think that's fair by now.
Yeah. Yeah.
We're up to the point where I've realized Call of Duty is a yearly release, but it's a 3-year development cycle on each team, and it's 3 different teams that run Call of Duty, which is kind of crazy whenever you think about that, huh?
Yeah.
That 3 different developers are running Call of Duty.
I mean, it's been a big enough game series.
It blows my mind that people buy enough every single year for that.
Yeah. People do, though. It's slowed down. Let's see. It slowed down at Infinite Warfare. It picked back up for World War II.
Yeah, but that was a rather drastic change. And Infinite Warfare kind of put people off with the sci-fi. So I could kind of see that.
Yeah. Yeah. Who knows? We'll see how this does. I really hope it does badly. I don't normally wish bad things on anyone, but I really want this to perform poorly. Just so poorly that they apologize and release a single-player campaign and they never do this again. I doubt it'll happen. I really doubt it will.
They're not,
but, you know.
If there's an apology, it'll be a Bungie-esque apology. We're sorry.
We're listening to your feedback.
The apology cycle.
Yeah. But, you know, a man can dream, right?
I guess so. Speaking of dreams.
Alrighty. Indeed. On to the final news topic of the week. The adventure game To the Moon is being adapted into an animated feature film.
Yeah, this is a little fluff piece, mostly because we both really enjoyed To the Moon.
Yep, I can hear the song now.
And I think some of the weakest parts of To the Moon wouldn't translate to a movie anyway, so they'd cut it, that one really gamey section.
Yeah, or even if they left it in, watching it, I think, would be more interesting than trying to play that portion, because it felt... I mean, that was the worst part of the whole game. So,
it felt like padding. So I definitely see To the Moon as a good story to transition to a different medium.
I wonder how long it would be. Like, I mean, To the Moon was about 3 hours.
Yeah,
anyways.
I would say it would probably be hour and a half, hour to hour and a half movie.
Yeah, I suppose a lot of the walking around and discovering bits could be cut or condensed, and the puzzle solving mechanic could be, because that took up a little bit of time too. That wouldn't translate to a film, I don't think so. But yeah, I mean, this is an interesting little thing that you brought up. I don't really know how much there is to say about it other than I hope it does well. I look forward to it just because of how much I love that game. How much it makes me cry every time I play it.
Do you need a moment?
No, I'm okay.
Do you need a different type of moment?
No, I'm okay.
Yeah, it's interesting to see a little indie project like this get so much traction that it could do a movie. Because To the Moon was kind of I wasn't expecting a lot from it, but it's really, really like this cult hit.
Yeah.
And it's one of the few games that I think really kind of justifies RPG Maker games in general, because RPG Maker is such a double-edged sword. It's very, very easy to make an RPG with it, which that's what To the Moon is using. But at the same time, it's caused a lot of what's the PC way? Oh shit!
Yeah, there's been some pretty bad RPG Maker games.
Yeah, I mean, just going through Steam releases now, I'm starting to see. Oh well, I've seen this sprite pack about half a dozen times today. So, to the Moon, is probably the best RPG Maker game out there I could think of.
Yeah.
So it'll be interesting to see, just for one, if they do a good art style, because I didn't see anything about how they're doing it, unless it was on that video. I briefly watched it, but I didn't look at it too deep. But also, I hope they keep the soundtrack, because that's the big thing.
Yeah. I wouldn't mind some original music as
From
well
the same artist.
if they. I was gonna say, yeah, if they got the same artist on board, that would be nice. Maybe not an entirely new and original score, but a song or two, a new song or two. That would be excellent.
So I think we're done here.
Indeed. And we shall move on from news to Community Corner. We have some tweets that I know of. I didn't think to check the
A lot
mail.
of tweets.
Although we're recording
I did check
early.
the mail. There wasn't anything.
Okay.
Well, outside of Kyle saying, I was very drunk when I recorded this. Here's the file.
Yeah.
Yes, we're still picking.
Good old Kylie Wiley.
Speaking of Kyle, he's in this probably about a dozen times. Kyle, the following tweet is comprised of the auto fill-in predictions that my phone thinks is my normal tweet to you guys. Enjoy. Community service and board meeting at the bar at the night. Before the night, we were supposed to be at work at the night, and we will talk to him about dinner plans tonight with you guys, and we could talk tomorrow with him tomorrow, and we could do it tonight. I'm pretty sure he just created a pop song. I'm pretty sure I actually read that correctly. Oh, autofill in or autocorrect. My phone likes to say fuck a lot for some reason. Don't know why.
Yeah, I wonder why.
But let's see. Kyle, once again, VGL community, Mels and I are going to be getting snake number 2, and I'm open to name suggestions. My suggestion is Doomful of Dorfith. Mels, no, you're only allowed to name pixel animals. What, is he not allowed to name things with polygons? Is that too far advanced for him?
Probably. This is Kyle we're talking about here.
Let's see. I did ask him about already having a doodle, because he did mention having another one named Doodle. Kyle S. Doodle got evicted a few months ago, and the host of the VGL podcast have spoken. I can name pets. Perhaps Drug would be a possible name. Then you came in, Slithero. Slithero, I like it. Just one more to make bells question my sanity. There's consonants in here that I don't even recognize. But I thought of one after the fact. from ukulele. Trouser.
Yep.
Uh,
Trouser.
Look up ukulele trouser, by the way. And wait here for that.
Ukulele trouser. Did I type something in? Oh, it's
I see somebody found the picture.
Oh,
Do you wish to describe it?
That's adorable. It's a snake wearing a pair of trousers, but he goes through both legs with his snaky body.
And he has a tie on.
He's got a tie
And a pith helmet.
and a hat. He's so cute. That's totally unpractical though, as a snake, but it's cute.
Well, there's a reason why he's just standing there.
Does he not move?
I don't think he moves. He just appears in various levels. Granted, I have to admit, Doodle is cuter,
Noodle.
but far less well dressed.
Oh. Yeah, I've scrolled too far on the Google image
He's
search.
gone too far, dug too deep and too greedily.
Yep, I've gone too far. That's enough internet for today.
I don't think I want to know. All right, let me guess. Rule 34.
Yeah. It's Vor Rule 34.
Yeah.
I mean, if you're into that sort of thing, good
you
for
know
you.
it's bad whenever Jared is creeped out.
I'm not a big fan of Vor. Never have been.
Anyway,
I mean, I've watched some of it,
of course,
mostly out of curiosity, but yeah, I'm not a big fan of it.
Oh, so moving along.
Oh, here's a cute one. Okay, he's got a little heart and he's smiling. Right, that helps. Yes, moving along.
Kyle, I just realized that I'm channeling Court of in KSP. I barely had the tech to get a craft to a Mun, built a bare bones lander and set more expendable Kerbal knots and returned the Kerbal knot home. Take that, KSA. Conrad Jeb is coming for you.
Nice.
Kyle, once again, must be drunk. It's just drunk tweeting us. Well, it's official. Mel's and I are moving. Here's to hoping that we could get really good internet in our new home. Mel's.
Yay.
So we could peek at each other's screens in real time while playing Civ or Black Ops? Kyle, sarcasm. Yes, that's the whole point of moving house. Screen look at video games. Yep, we're gonna have about an acre of land, a garage, and a house, but screen looking. That's a kind of a combination between him responding to you and his tweet. And then I'll chime in. Mel's already talking about cheating? Shame. Mel's just in Civ, probably. Mostly to make sure his deep state spies aren't stealing my Sistine Chapel seal. And then Kyle tweets about him totally not having spies and be sure to have spies come back home. Oh, things are very lovely over at Geo Podcast on the Twitter. Or if you wish to scare the moths, bglpodcast@gmail.com.
And just let me throw in there a hearty future nuptials for the two of you, and congrats on getting a home. I can't remember if you told me you bought it or if you were renting it. Regardless.
Yes.
Congratulations. Congratulations. Being a homeowner is pretty cool. There's also a lot of bullshit that goes along with it, but it's pretty cool.
You know what else is pretty cool? The Doobly Doo.
Or the Discovery Queue.
And I got something interesting right away, and actually fairly fitting.
Okay.
Let me scroll up to the proper place. Scroll down to the proper place because I overshot it. House Flipper.
Oh, I've seen that. That doesn't look good.
It has I have a curiosity about it. It could be either very good or very bad. It's about going into these rather crappy homes, fixing them up, and reselling them on the market. And there's been some back and forth on just people talking about it. I think there's going to be a certain subset that will really enjoy this. The type that like Versura Cleaner, where you're just cleaning up all the gore after this terrible fight or various things.
Yeah.
I think that's the type of people that would really like this. Or, people that like the simulation style things or really like these home flipper shows. So I definitely see the appeal of it. It's just, if it's any good or not. And it does have pretty high ratings overall, with some people talking about it being a little shallow overall, but for a game to just mess around with, it could be fun.
Maybe. If I got it for free, I'd play it, but I don't think I'd buy it. I got an interesting game that I don't know how I missed, because it's almost a year old at this point, but I love stuff like this. Albion Online. Fantasy MMO with extremely highly player-driven content, including economy, classes combat. You can build a house and a farm, and do mining, and other things.
Know why you're interested in it.
It's a one-time purchase, it looks like. $20. It's been out for like a year. Premium. It's one of those things that does premium time. So you buy the game,
and then
you can.
Yeah, it looks like it's a temporary premium as well. 60 additional days of premium status, exclusive avatars and cosmetics. So yeah,
I'll look more into this and see how bullshitty it is, but I'm interested in the concept. Oh wait, what's this? That's a mech.
Well, we lost him, so I'll move on.
You
to Wizard of Legend, roguelite wizard combat game. Think sort of Binding of Isaac-esque, or your typical roguelite only with wizards and magical nonsense. It looks actually fairly impressive on its pixel art. It's not an early access game either, so it's fully released. Which is actually a rarity for these, now that I think about it. How often do you see roguelites in early access?
Is that a trick question? I feel like I've seen tons of them in early access.
Yeah, that's what I was saying. How often do you see them in early access and not full release?
All the time.
So yeah, that's actually very interesting that it's full release. Looks like it's pretty hack and slash with magical abilities as well. So definitely one to check out. Fairly highly rated. Okay.
So this is called Melting World.
I just came
Online.
across that.
Okay. It looks like
the first thing I see is a mech. Like, oh no.
Yeah, this looks to be some
and I just
sort
got
of
Albion Online as well.
More heavily XCOM inspired, like classic XCOM inspired turn-based mech game. It just says available Q2 2018, so that would be soon, unless they're going by fiscal quarter, in which case that would be in the fall, late summer, early fall. But there's not a ton of information here. But still, I'm interested. Very interested. I like things with mechs. I like things that are turn-based strategy games. You're the mech, baby. 2018. Something redeemable in this dark world.
Well, how could it be such a dark world when there's Little Witch Academia Chamber of Time on Steam?
Oh my.
This is a tie-in game to the anime Little Witch Academia, which actually has a very old art style to it. And it, for the most part, actually looks quite a bit like the show, which is rather impressive with some of the anime games coming out nowadays, how much they could mirror the look of the show.
All right.
Yeah, it doesn't. It's not a bad looker. Little Witch Academia is essentially Harry Potter Japanese style with female protagonists,
as you do in Japan.
And it's actually a fairly good show overall. I just haven't sat down and watched all of it. And this looks like it's a pretty solid tie-in to it. trying to find if this is just a JRPG or if it's more of a life sim. It looks like RPG elements with side-scrolling action allows fans to level up their characters and find drops to enhance builds while exploring. So, roguelike? Doesn't really cover what genre this is. And I hear you chuckling, so.
Yeah, I found something cute. Machiavillain. Machiavillain is an evil mansion management and strategy game inspired by Dungeon Keeper, Prison Architect, and all of the horror movie cliches. Build your own manor, raise your monsters, set up your traps, and exterminate your victims. But to gain reputation, you have to slay by the horror movie rules. It's a cute art style with like a really dark theme. I like it.
Yeah, so this is sort of I almost want to say like Theme Hospital / Evil Genius.
Yeah. Yeah, I could see that combination.
So I got one also. My queue's been pretty chock full of good things, even though you've stolen a couple of them. Forgotten Anne. A very, very impressive looking 2D platform. Looks like puzzle platformer from the Steam tags, where you're in this. It's like steampunk world. I mean, that is some impressive art on that. Take a look at that. Where everything is lost in.
Made a link for it. Huh. It's neat.
Yeah, I mean, that is some rather impressive looking art, and looks like some rather good cutscenes on it as well. I'm just trying to find any more information about this. Uncover forgotten mysteries and harness magical forces as you embark upon a quest to return home. Rather impressive looking. That's definitely one to pick up. Oh, it's published by Square Enix. I missed that.
Huh. Well, good for them. They did something good.
Yeah. I wonder how much of a mess the port is.
I guess we'll find out.
I just got Machiavelli villain.
So I got another one that looks interesting. Slipstream. It's a racing game that is inspired by / designed to look like arcade racing games from the
I saw that in
the 90s. This looks really interesting. I was always a big fan of this type of game. As long as it plays well.
Yeah, racing games
interesting.
Racing games is really coming along throughout our lifetimes, huh? I was just thinking about that the other day while playing Euro Truck. I was just thinking about the difference between the extremely old DOS era Test Drive and Euro Truck, and just how it was essentially, just watching the movie play over the screen, and maybe some sound effects to full simulation.
Yeah. But yeah, that looked interesting. Keep my eye on it.
I got another live one.
See if I can get a key. I'm done with my queue. Just wrapped it up. I got Anne.
Yeah, I got 3 more after this. Cubots: The Origins. It looks like another adventure / technically not, but platformer-esque game. Very interesting looking. It's a little hard to tell what this game actually is, though, just from the screenshots. Just taking a quick look at the trailer. It's like a sort of open world platformer, puzzle platformer adventure game with rolling a block around as the protagonist. Interesting. I'm just looking at some of the puzzles in the trailer, and that is could possibly be a little finicky, but with how the protagonist is a cube, everything is very grid based, so it could definitely work.
Yeah, only $3 too.
Very cheap game. Okay, moving along. Oh, another very cheap game, which I'll throw on because it looks interesting. Fantasy Versus. This is a 4v4 multiplayer battle arena thing. Looks almost Dota-ish with some of the screenshots where you're having to protect towers. But it's not listing MOBA as a genre. It lists anime as a genre. Interesting looking.
Seen something like this before.
Does it look like it has many?
This looks
it
familiar.
Have many reviews. But yeah, that definitely looks MOBA-esque, where you're having to attack various towers, or if not MOBA, tower defense. But what looks like attack different towers to gain territory in 4v4 matchups. A problem with this is, of course, getting the player base. It looks like they have servers in the U.S., Europe, and Japan. So, if you're in Oceania, you're fucked. Or if you're anywhere away from Amsterdam, you're kind of fucked. Or in the western half of the U.S. It's so tough to launch a multiplayer-focused game on Steam, particularly indie only. And got another interesting one. Oh, what? How do I keep getting better cues than you?
Because I've been through more games on Steam than you have.
TEST, or test expected behavior. 3D sci-fi 3D puzzle quest, and this looks very, very Portal-esque. I think I have a demo for this, but I realized it was a demo, so I didn't queue up for a Sunday sampler. Where this looks so Portal-esque, and we've seen close to Portal, but we haven't seen anything that's really, really been able to capture Portal. See, 119 levels, time manipulation, curved space. So they're definitely going full hog here, huh?
Sounds that way.
Non-linear level maps, so that could be interesting. Definitely something to look at. And my last one is also something that looks interesting. Oh. And it's not like I'm getting old games in this. It's just, are you sitting and doing queues all the time?
No.
Earthlock.
I've seen Earthlock before. This is actually on my wish list.
What's not on your wish list?
Lots of stuff.
Indie developed adventure RPG inspired by classic 3D RPGs of the late 90s. So definitely some possibly dated game design, perhaps based on that. But if they update it, it could work. Very bright screenshots, huh?
Yeah, I like the art style too.
I'm trying to put a finger on it. It looks almost like an updated Final Fantasy VII with some of these angles. The old style
I mean,
Final
it seems
Fantasy.
like that's what they're going for.
That's definitely what the vibe I'm getting with these screenshots is old school Final Fantasy, pre-rendered background style Final Fantasy where, and just looking at the battle system, that looks like I would say Final Fantasy X-esque with the movement queue. And UI doesn't look particularly great, but they may be hiding part of it. But yeah, that looks so like Final Fantasy 7, 8 era, maybe 9.
Well, I mean, it says, inspired by the classic 3D RPGs of the late 90s, which would be Final Fantasy 7, 8.
Not 9.
When did 9 come out?
2001.
Okay. Yeah, so Final Fantasy 8, 9. Those games. They probably don't specifically want to say Final Fantasy 7 because of the cliche, but...
Yeah, Final Fantasy definitely follows its own little formula. But I would say it's probably the most well-known. It's definitely drawing inspiration from other things, I think. But yeah, I would say Final Fantasy is definitely the main ingredient in this recipe.
Which is fine. I enjoy me some Final Fantasy. At least the older ones.
Yeah.
15 probably, but I haven't played 15.
Yeah, I have 12 on disc. I haven't played it yet. I keep needing to go try it at some point. But 12 was developed whenever they were making the MMO, so it's very MMO-esque.
Yeah.
And is it 13? That's Hallway Simulator, supposedly?
Pretty much. I mean, it opens up after a gazillion hours of playtime.
Yeah, it gets
but
better
I
after
don't
the first
expect anybody. Oh no, you have to get past the first disc and I think the second disc. I think on Xbox 360 it was 4 discs, like 4 DVDs. It's 3 or 4, and you had to get past the second one before the game actually opened up and quote unquote got good.
Yeah, which
There were
yeah, that's the problem with a JRPG having a slow start. I never got into Persona because Persona has what, a 6-hour prologue essentially before you really get into the story.
It depends on which Persona game that you play, but they do all have
5,
very
4,
long.
The one on PlayStation 2, the last one. I think it's Persona 4 because 5 is the recent one.
I think 4 was on PS3 and 5 was on PS4.
It's so confusing.
I don't know. I don't know enough about the series.
But yeah, I tried getting into one of the Persona games, and it. Don't get me wrong, I like my visual novels, but I went into it expecting a JRPG, a JRPG life sim. So sitting there, next. It probably would be a lot better now, where I could just put it on the second screen and let it play for a while. And then eventually, okay, I'll do something. Okay, put it back on autoplay. I should probably do that. But yeah, that is my discovery queue. I got, half the discovery queue on here? And it would have been more if you didn't get 2 of them.
Yeah. Well, I gotta get them before you get them all.
Well, excuse me.
See, that's the thing. I get good games, but you steal them all.
Well, excuse me.
Alrighty. Well, then with both of our discovery queues out of the way,
Is that
means it's time.
sorry.
What?
Does that? Okay. The typeface on that. I was still on the Steam store. I went back to the main page, and it's Beast Battles, but the typeface. It for a split second there, I thought it said Breast Battles. I thought, what?
Nice.
With Steam these days, not out of the question.
Yeah, not out of the question. Anyways, where I was going was to the portion of the podcast where that I go first and tell you what's going on. I told you at the beginning of the show I just started a new job and I'm adjusting my life. Also, YouTube for some reason spit back, didn't accept my uploads of a couple of the Divinity episodes that we did. And I don't know what's up with that. And I just haven't re-rendered them to upload them. So I've got episodes.
Well, we know
like
it's
the
not
last
quality of content because YouTube doesn't have a standard.
I've got the last 3 episodes uploaded. But there's like 3 or 4 in the middle that aren't uploaded because for some reason YouTube constantly says failed. Like upload failed.
Damn net
So
neutrality.
I don't know what's up with that. I gotta work on fixing that. But whenever I get whatever it is figured out, I'll post all of the ones up to where we are, and then schedule the other ones appropriately. But I'm not doing anything with them until I get it worked out. Like
you'll just be releasing all of them over the course of a couple days because it ends this week, I believe.
Sweet. Well, that's how I roll. But other than that, I'm not up to much. Just getting, like I said, adjusted to all the changes in my life. So, if you want to go see the things that I have posted on YouTube, you do so by searching for Gaming Psychologist on the YouTubes. If you want to see live airings of the podcast on Twitch, along with a few other things that I post there using
we're
their
live now?
Premiere system, well, yeah, we're live right now.
Are you using
Twitch.
live in massive sarcasm quotes?
Yes. And you can do so over at twitch.tv/jarthur4707. If you want to follow me on Twitter, where I tweet about all sorts of things, you can do so at jma4707 on Twitter. And if you want to be my friend on Steam and just chat about things in life, video games, or if you ever feel like you just need somebody to talk to, you can do so by sending me a friend request. My Steam username is jarthur4707. I accept all friend requests. And they've all been from lovely, lovely people who are listeners of the show.
And if you wish to let them know exactly what episode of the podcast you're coming from, the password for this week is Abomination. Abomination.
Nice.
And that's a great shout out to those chuckle fucks.
Nice.
So my channel. My
Indeed.
channel is going to be very sparse. I am moving house. And the original plan was to build up a backlog of my content to, have it kind of coast along. But 2 series ended in the same damn week. And in order to replace them, it would be a huge scramble. So, the plan right now is I have RimWorld in backlog for the next couple weeks. I'm going to do one more recording to get another week or so to be able to get a little bit more breathing. And it's going to be pretty much RimWorld 2 nights a week with one more Sunday sampler, then hopefully just 1 week of silence, then we'll pick back up. At least that's the game plan right now. So if anybody wants to get me a housewarming, feel free. But yeah, that kind of knew this was coming, but the actual moving day was rather sudden. So yeah, didn't plan it out nearly as well as I hoped, just because I was planning on content to continue on. But to be fair, Divinity kind of was winding down anyway, and we could replace it with something else, but it's a scramble to do so and get enough content done. And especially, Jared was also going to have issues this week, possibly. And it wasn't going to work out. And, trying to scramble for the other series, it just didn't make sense. So, a little bit off time for me. Maybe. I am going to work on some other things off channel. So, I'm not going to be completely lazy. Most likely. Maybe. Well, if you wish to see the RimWorld content that I have backed up, you can do so Gaming with Caffeine Rage, or you can see me tweet on Twitter, as I'm probably going to be very bored setting up house. Gaming with a CR. And if you wish to contact the show, once again, that is VGLpodcast@gmail.com with your letters, voicemails, gaming-related topics, or just tweet us VGL Podcast on the Twitter. If you wish to pay for this absolute madness of a podcast, you do so patreon.com/VGLpodcast, which has helped pay for our Podbean account. VGLpodcast.podbean.com, which hosts the RSS feed, the show notes, or you can just go to iTunes, Google Play, Stitcher, wherever Jared shoved us, which we are now getting a letter from Morality and Media saying don't put us there anymore.
They'll live.
At least with that attitude, right? Or probably not with that attitude if they're in the wrong place. Can you imagine them in an anime convention? And we're in our post outro babble, so we can't do that yet. Because I haven't said our intro and outro music is On the Ground by Kevin McLeod, and Doobly Doo is our Discovery Cube music by the same artist. His work can be found at incompetech.com, and
as always, as his lovely music starts to roll across my voice. Bye-bye.
So, should we ship them to an anime convention? Bye-bye.
Yeah. Bye-bye.